This is Constable Pat Springby, RCMP, Regiment 57140. Taking a statement from Patrick Fox in relation to burning file 2016 25379. It's currently 21:03 hours on June 16, 2016. Mr. Fox was arrested by this evening. He was recharged and warned by Constable Heather Montagliani for uttering threats and criminal harassment in relation to his wife, Desiree Capuano. He's currently in his cell. Constable Montagliani advised me that she read his rights from a prepared arrest script. He was provided access to counsel. He indicated that he wanted to speak with a public defender. He was put on the phone with legal aid. He exited the room after speaking with legal aid, advised that he spoke with a lawyer, understood the advice, and that his lawyer didn't make any mention of coming to the Burnaby detachment. As I mentioned, Mr. Fox is currently in his cell. I'll be taking my audio recorder with me to go in and get him. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah, good. Jason.
Nice
to meet you.
Oh,
Good,
yes,
good.
that already.
I'm kind of one of those too. I anticipate what someone's going to say when I ask them now.
A lot of Inuit and Aboriginals, every time you start DNA, have to
Let's see right in that corner. Perfect. Okay.
Alright, this is golden.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you can adjust. I don't know, I like it cold, so if you do get cold and you're really, really cold, let me know and I can figure something out.
Okay.
Maybe turn the heat up, or I don't know. Maybe. I said my name is Jason. I'm a police officer. I've been one for about 7 years, and I work with the investigative support team. I was kind of asked. I don't have a lot of background in your file, and everything I know has been a lot. I was asked a short time ago to come in and take an interview from you. So if I'm wrong in something, or I'm misinformed, correct me, because I really just learned everything, and there's so much to learn. But I was hoping to speak with you to figure out kind of like this file is, I know we call everything a file, it's kind of all over the place. I was kind of hoping to speak with you a little bit about that and kind of share, I guess, how the RCMP and everybody ended up here. I mean, you already kind of know, you know obviously more about this than I do, but I've just got some information that they wanted me to kind of give you.
Sure.
But before that, I told you a little bit about myself. I'd like to tell you more. I have a child as well. I have a child, a son.
But you have a psychotic ex-wife.
I don't.
Okay.
But I do know a lot of psychotic women, so I kind of can understand that. But yeah, no, I'm lucky, thank God. I mean, there's no telling where my wife could end up. Thankfully, I've been pretty lucky, but the way women are, who knows, right? So, but I'm lucky so far, and I have a son, so I don't know women's daughters, so I'm hopefully lucky for their teenage years and all that. So, but yeah, so I have a son, not as old as yours. He's only 4. So far, so good. I do have a wife. So far, so good. Yeah, I've been working in Burnaby for my whole 7 years. Yeah, I mean, I like to play sports. I don't know if you like to sports. Big in hockey? No? Okay. I know you're an IT guy, which I'm not even gonna, I don't know anything about. I struggle with it. I try and figure it out, but I'm not, it takes me forever. If I try and do anything with computers or anything, it takes me forever, which is surprising because I'm not that old, so I don't know what happened with me, but I don't know what that says about me. But I was hoping to kind of hear some more about you, not what's just what I'm presented with in the file, like what they don't kind of tell us, like stuff you're into, stuff like that.
Sure. First, is the recorder on?
It is.
Okay.
So yeah, we're being audio and video recorded.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure it was on.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people have a tendency to infer what they expected or wanted to hear from something that a person said. But if it's being recorded, then there's
it's
a
audio
record
and
of-
video recorded.
Right.
Yeah.
Second, I have an amazing caffeine withdrawal headache, so if I seem a little slow or distant,
Do you want a
that's
coffee?
why. Oh, do you have coffee? I would love some.
I think I can get you coffee.
Oh, that's great. I've had
Because I would like a
all
coffee
day.
as well.
Just
Because as soon as I got in tonight, I was told to put on this, so I haven't had a chance to get a coffee.
right.
Let me see about getting a coffee here.
That would be great if you could do that.
Yeah.
That would help immensely.
Yeah.
This morning at the detention facility in Tacoma, at 5:30, they woke us up for breakfast. I grabbed my breakfast and then I was going to go back to sleep. But then they wake me up and they tell me, "Oh, come on, you've got to roll up. You're being released." And so I didn't have a chance to have any coffee all day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I usually have like 2 coffees at least a day. What do you take in your coffee?
Just black.
Just black. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anytime someone says they take it black, I feel like I'm less of a man if I say that I take cream and sugar.
Well, if it helps at all, I used to take cream and sugar, and when I was about 21, I was engaged to this woman from Japan, and she used to drink it black, and she was the one that got me started drinking it black. So
Okay. I'd like to. I
made me
started
feel like less of a man too.
I know. Well, I started with like a double.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to say that I'm down to 2 milk and 1 sugar, but I'd like to get it down. But anytime I try and go lower, like I don't know. Then I see some people get that. I've seen in front of me like order triple or something.
Oh.
I couldn't imagine. Let's see, large black. Okay.
Now, the documentation you have in front of you, is that the entire case file? Because if so, it's
not.
very thin.
Yeah, it's not. No.
Okay.
This is just stuff for me to kind of, like I said, I kind of got front and late. Obviously, I had no idea who you were until the last like 2 hours. So there's been so much that's happened. But I do interviews, so they asked me if I could have a chat with you. So
Sure. And you're aware of the prior arrest, right, from July of last year?
I read that.
She
Yes,
filed.
I
And,
Yeah, I read all that.
and
I was kind of looking just to get to know you a little bit before, like the stuff I don't read. I mean, like it's kind of awkward. You're sitting in your cell, and then there's someone that's writing, investigating. There's a lead investigator. I only get to hear what he says and what is in the file. I have some time because my only job was to take an interview from you, so I've got my whole shift. So we could, if you want, we can kind of. I want to kind of get to know you.
Other than the facts.
Other than what's in the information, because when you see something on, I mean, I don't know what's true or what's not because we have to take everything, and even if when I talk to somebody or we see something in the news or whatever. We can't actually believe it 100%.
Don't I know it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, don't I know it? Because the stuff they put, I mean, about us, I've had files that, I've never been accused of doing wrong, but I've had files that have made it, and the way they spin it and the information that they use is completely not the case. I tell my wife, I'm like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what they actually said today. So I don't know. I mean, I know what their job is. They're trying to spin and get paper, sell news, but it's frustrating. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know about the CBC story that was done back in February, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Have you seen what was aired?
I did. I watched it. Yeah.
Yes, that was extremely one-sided.
Yeah. Okay.
And then about a week later, some news agencies in the U.S. contacted me and did an interview.
Okay.
That was much more realistic, and that's when things started kind of turning. That's when that media coverage started turning against Desiree.
Okay.
Like at first she was getting all this positive attention, people supporting her and stuff, and then I started posting the proof that she was lying about all this.
Okay. But are you, like, how long have you been in, I was just trying to get to know you, like how long have you been in Canada now since you...
This time?
Yeah.
Since this morning.
Okay. But, sorry, prior to May 27th, I think it is?
Yeah, prior to that, early May 2013 is when I
Okay.
arrived here.
Okay.
And I've been living here steadily since then.
Yeah.
I
Do you like it better in Canada than the state? Like, what do you prefer?
There's some things I like about both. Well, okay, I would compare Vancouver to Los Angeles because the only part of Canada I'm really familiar with would be Vancouver.
Okay.
And the only part of the U.S. that I really like at all would be Los Angeles.
Okay.
Federally, in the U.S., there's very little that I like anymore. Ever since like September 11th and the Patriot Act and the Real ID Act, and so I have very little interest in ever moving back to the U.S. This time when I was going down, it was just to visit for a few weeks, and Border Patrol claimed that they had seen me like on the camera.
Okay.
Except,
entirely. Before actually, like, I should say before we get into that, obviously you have rights, and if I was, I know Constable Montagliani, the female that came down. She read you all that and kind of explained everything. But obviously, anything you say, given that I'm a police officer, can be given in evidence against you.
Yes,
and you don't have to say anything. You know that, right?
Right, and I'm generally pretty careful not to say something that would incriminate myself.
Okay.
If I do think something might be incriminating, then I would simply say I'm not going to comment on that.
That's fair enough. I totally get it. I respect that.
But
I know you're a smart guy because I can tell you choose your words. Cause I actually watched a little bit of your other interview and trying to prep it, and I can tell you're pretty smart. You're a pretty smart guy. I don't know if you've been educated or went to school, or if it's all just by yourself, or.
I would say mostly all by myself.
Good.
There was a period in the U.S. from 2007 to 2011 where ICE was giving me a hard time, and the Phoenix police were trying to charge me with some things, and so I had to represent myself. So I had to learn a lot about the law during that process.
Okay.
Mostly Canadian law. Substantively, it's very similar.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Procedurally,
I've never looked at it.
Somewhat different, though.
Okay.
Like generally, what's a crime in the U.S. is a crime here.
Okay. Yeah. No, fair enough.
And the defenses are generally very similar. Procedures are very different, though.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
But back to me. Okay, so I came here in 2013 as a result of being deported.
Yeah.
Been living here steadily or constantly since. During the time that I've been here, I've been back to the U.S. a number of times, like to visit or for shopping and stuff. Never had any problems returning to the U.S. except for this most recent time.
Yeah.
Let's see. I've never physically harmed anybody in my life. I don't believe in harming anybody other than in self-defense. When it comes to self-defense, I believe a person should be able to or should be allowed to defend themselves by any means necessary. If they're not the ones that initiate the aggression, then this idea that they should use equal or lesser force, I don't think that's really fair.
I can understand.
Like if a small guy gets attacked by a big guy like you, what's equal or lesser force?
Yeah.
But anyway, so my career as a software engineer. Since I've been in Vancouver, I've worked on 3 projects here: 2 video game companies, one at EA.
Oh, cool.
And then contract with Vtech. They make telephones and stuff.
Yeah. They do other stuff too, or they used to, right?
Yeah, they make like toys for young kids.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah,
I've seen that name around a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Which games did you develop?
I was working on a component that provides the network functionality or the networking interface functionality for some of the for a number of the sports games. NHL.
Oh, cool.
What's that? FIFA used it too, I think.
Oh, okay.
There was a new UFC game that came out while I was working there. That one used it.
Something, I think, Fight Night or something like that,
and a couple other games.
Okay, cool.
So I wasn't working on one game specific.
Yeah. So you're working for a company that was with EA? Is that
No.
Oh, for
working
EA.
For EA.
Oh, okay.
But in programming, there's what's called libraries, which are modules or components of reusable code that can be used by multiple different games.
Okay.
Kind of like how, a brick, for example, can be used by multiple different things, right?
Okay. So you're developing, and what did they actually? What did they use that for in the game? How does that work?
Are you familiar with the games much?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, great. Because I'm not.
I'm not a huge gamer, but I do know this game.
There's something called leaderboards.
Okay. Yeah.
It would facilitate that when sending messages to other players.
Okay. Cool.
Sorry, I'm trying to remember back now.
Yeah.
Most of my career has not been in games, and so
Okay.
some of the knowledge I gained while I was there I've forgotten since.
Okay.
I remember the leaderboards though.
Yeah.
There was some other major thing too. Something to do with scoring, or
Okay.
I can't remember though.
That's interesting. I wouldn't even know where to start. I would look at it and be like, I would have no clue. I would be completely lost. I know it'd be probably easy for you, but
Well, sure. I mean, once you have all that prerequisite knowledge,
yeah, I guess.
then yeah. But
Yeah, that's cool. That's interesting. Sorry, I interrupted you. I was curious
no,
about the
no
game.
problem.
So,
Let's see. What else can I say? I'm trying not to duplicate information that you probably already have. Like, my ex-wife and I, we got married in 2000. We
Yeah.
separated in 2001. I had custody of our son. She claims that I hid him for 9 years. I claimed and proved that that wasn't true, that she was the one that left.
Okay.
That was one thing the media made a big deal about.
Okay.
Her claim that I had hid him for 9 years.
yeah, okay.
Have you gone to the website yourself?
Yeah, and I have a little bit, but before we get to that, you made mention of, and I made mention of Heather Montague, the police officer.
Sure, yeah.
And I know you talked about how the other police agencies work and like procedurally why. And you kind of hinted that's a little different. I just want to ensure, because I've dealt with police before too, and I've been, I won't even say which police, but in the Lower Mainland, not the RCMP, and they've kind of jacked me up.
The only other one would be Vancouver, right?
No, there's other ones, but.
I thought it was just RCMP in Vancouver.
No, there's Abbotsford.
Oh, they have their own
Yeah,
place?
Port Moody, Delta, New West.
Oh, okay.
What else is there? I think I'm missing one. I can't think of it.
Yeah, good enough.
Anyways, yeah, good enough. There's other ones, and I just want to make sure that you check on how you've been treated. Because I've been jacked up myself. Has anyone promised or threatened you anything? Like, has anyone promised if you talk to Constable Potts, you'll get this, or this? Or any police officer? Has there been any promises made to you?
Nobody has made any promises to me. Nobody has threatened or attempted to intimidate me. And so far, all of my experience with the RCMP has been that they've been exceptionally professional and courteous in all of my interactions with
them. And the
them.
same goes for if and when we hear back with this coffee. That's not like I'm just getting that because you said you got a headache and could use one to focus. It's not like that I'm giving it to you because I hope you talk to me or say something or incriminate yourself. But she's not responding, so maybe the monitor can get my partner, Heather, when taking them to check their phone. We'll do that. Then maybe they can. I just have somebody monitoring for me. So,
monitoring? What do you mean?
Someone watching the statement. We have. It's basically we have to.
Sure.
I'll tell you reasons. It could be many. If I know what will happen in this case, but if you jumped up and attacked me,
or vice versa.
Exactly. Yeah. Then someone could come down. So
Right. Okay.
yeah. So but usually we're dealing with really bad people.
Yeah.
You're obviously not that kind of guy, but you never know. It's just so they put in that they always want someone monitoring it. So
of course.
that's the reason for it. Okay. So so the reason why you know that you were arrested for harassment and uttering threats.
I know what the charges are.
Yeah.
I don't know what the factual basis of the charges are. I know that the case number is a 2016, so I'm assuming it's not based on the same allegations as the prior criminal harassment. Otherwise, it would just be the same case number, right?
Well, no, it's not because of 2016, because a new file was created, kind of in around what happened at the border there. They created a new file. Everybody, they love to create files.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, so it's just, it could cover off some of the stuff that happened back
Right.
in 2015.
Now, one thing I know is from that prior arrest until now, there's been no contact between Desiree and I other than a few emails that I had sent her requesting visitation back in the fall and then for his winter break and for the summer break.
Yeah.
There's been no responses from her to any of those with the exception of one response in December. So there can't possibly be any new allegations of any kind of harassment or uttering of any threats. So it would have to be based on something that occurred prior to the other arrest. But then that would lead me to think, well, why wasn't this brought up at the prior arrest. Really, I'm thinking what happened is the RCMP heard that I was down in the U.S., that Border Patrol had arrested me or something, and then decided to bring this stuff up. I don't think that there's any new evidence that could have possibly come up.
Okay.
See, I think what happened was, okay, before, some people were saying, like in the media, that the reason the prosecutor didn't move forward is because we're in separate countries.
Yeah.
So when the RCMP heard that I was in the U.S., that kind of removed that one issue of us being in separate countries. But I've been back to the U.S. a number of times. And the fact of that one international border being there is one thing. There's still 1,700 miles between me and her. If I go 25 miles south and cross the border, there's still 1,700 miles between us. So, I mean, that's what I'm hypothesizing is going on here, but I don't know.
Yeah, okay, no, fair enough. Do you, like, so the 27th, so again, I've only read kind of like paragraph. What happened on that day? Can you tell me about that day? Like how it was that you were arrested?
Sure. I was going to the border. I had the intention of going to Linden, catching a bus from Linden, going to Bellingham, and then to Seattle, and then catching the train down the Amtrak down to Los Angeles. As I got to Zero Avenue, and I've crossed there a number of times, and I know that that statement could be potentially incriminating, but it would be outside the jurisdiction of the RCMP. You'd have to tell the U.S. authorities, and obviously they don't care. Otherwise, if they were going to charge me with something criminally, they would have done it this time or the other times. So as I got to Zero Avenue, I noticed this car that was coming along and almost came to a complete stop as it passed me, but then decided at the last second to continue on. And that was maybe 10 feet away from where, it just hopped across and continued down Double Ditch Road. So what I suspect happened was that person in that car probably called CBSA or the Border Patrol and said, hey, somebody just crossed the border. And then the Border Patrol came and intercepted me.
How did, so I'm curious, like how did that go? How did they, were they, I would imagine?
They were much more polite and friendly than I would have expected.
Yeah, I'm surprised at that too.
It seems the last couple of years, though, some higher authority has been probably telling them to stop being assholes at the border.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have complained about that.
Okay.
But they were friendly and polite, and they took my ID and ran the name and stuff. And then they brought me down to the Border Patrol station, ran the fingerprints, and then the old ICE file came up and all. And then they spent a bunch of time going through all of that, and first they jumped to a bunch of conclusions about that I was trying to do this and trying to do that, and they reviewed the file, and then they realized that, well, wait a second, this person's been put through all of this stuff, but he's never actually done anything wrong, like the perjury and the false claim of U.S. citizenship. That happened after I was already in ICE custody, and they were unable to prove that I was an alien. So then they charged me with that stuff to try to get me to plead guilty so they could use that as a basis for my deportation.
Okay.
Like, it's not like I was convicted of those first, and then ICE deported me arrested me and deported me based on that. I was in ICE custody for 8 months before they charged me with those things.
Huh. So yeah, sorry, you left off. You got arrested, brought back.
Arrested? Well, I got arrested by the Border Patrol.
Yeah.
And they had this intelligence officer or agent or something talking with me for a while, to determine if I was associated with any kind of terrorist group or anything.
Yeah.
And then he did all his investigation, and they concluded that there was no kind of threat, and they weren't going to press any kind of charges or anything. They were just going to reinstate the prior order of removal. From that point, I was getting along fine with it. Everybody, all the officers there were all cool.
Okay.
The next day, they transferred me to the ICE facility in Tacoma. Now, I've had bad experiences with ICE in the past, as you probably know.
Yeah.
And the ICE has a tendency not to care about leaving people sitting in custody for long periods of time.
Yeah.
So I was expecting probably I was going to be in custody for 6, 8, 12 weeks. Called the Canadian consulate just after I got there. I got there on a Saturday, and then the Monday was a holiday, so on the following Tuesday. And I explained the situation to them. They started a file. Nobody from ICE came to me. Like, usually they bring this emergency travel document form that I have to fill out and sign and everything. A couple weeks went by. I started getting kind of suspicious. There was no... They didn't come with the form. The consulate said they hadn't heard from them. But they kept saying, oh, no, we're just going to take you to the border. And I thought, well, it's peculiar.
Yeah.
Then yesterday, my commissary account stopped working, and that kind of tipped me off that I was probably going to... Oh, they have these computers where you can order the commissary. And commissary is like the store in jails where you can order like food and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
And as they start processing you to be released, one of the things they do is they close your commissary account. So when you try to log in and you see you can't get in anymore, that's kind of a sign that
So that's been good news, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it's... Getting released isn't necessarily good news. What happens after you're released determines if it's good news. Like, I got released from ICE custody, but now I'm here.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
So I still haven't had a damn cigarette, but... I smoke.
Okay, yeah, I don't smoke, and I don't even...
Nah, you wouldn't... That would be
I don't know.
against policies or something, I'm sure.
No, well, not in here. We can't smoke in here, but if I had smokes, or if I knew someone who smoked, I don't even know if anyone smokes.
Probably not.
At this time of night, usually during the day, you can find cigarettes around here somewhere, but then I would just take you to the bay there, the secure bay, and we can smoke in there. But
gosh, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
But I'd incriminate myself for that.
Oh no, don't talk about that.
I'm kidding. So then this morning, they called me, like I said, just after they woke us up for breakfast and said to pack up my stuff. And then they brought me to the Border Patrol place, the same place, I believe, where they had brought me when they arrested me. And then these two ICE officers brought me to P-Sarge. And then I was sitting in the back of the car there for a long time, thinking like, okay, what are they doing there? And then the RCMP car pulled up, and I thought, I bet this has to do with me.
Yeah.
Of course, I had no idea why.
Yeah.
So that was from that most recent arrest up until now.
Okay. I haven't heard anything back.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking for a coffee as well, so let me just quickly make a phone call.
Okay.
Alright. There'll be two phone calls. Ever since you mentioned you got a headache, I'm getting a little bit of a headache coming on because I usually have a coffee right when I come in. But
May I ask,
Yeah.
what time would it be?
9:30.
Okay. There's a serious case of sensory deprivation because over in the holding tank there's absolutely no indication of what time of day it might be or
yeah.
clocks or anything.
Yeah, 9:30 night. So on June 16th.
Well, the date, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So sorry. So you were brought to the cells here, or sorry, eventually you transferred from the border to Burnaby.
Right.
And I've been here ever since.
So first I was transferred from Peace Arch, then to Surrey, and then Officer or Constable Davidson came from Burnaby to Surrey and brought me from
okay.
there.
Okay, that
to
makes
here.
sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So how did it all happen? Where I mean, because I kind of am updated. She's saying a lot. You're Desiree,
Yes.
and I've read a lot.
Yes.
I'm not sure how much of it I believe.
Consider that every allegation that she's made publicly or to the police previously,
Yeah.
I've posted proof on the website. that
Okay.
It's not true.
Yeah. So I've only had 2 hours to kind
Sure,
of figure.
sure.
So I've nowhere near touched any of that. So
Her most significant allegation was the one about, it started out with that I had threatened to, or that I had said that I would shoot her if it was not illegal or if there was no threat of risk of going to jail or something like that. But realize though that when you, I don't know if you've actually seen that actual statement, it was in an email. When you read it, you see it's actually very innocuous. Like I don't say that I would actually do that. And in the next paragraph, I very clearly state that I would never physically harm her unless in self-defense, etc., etc.
yeah. Okay.
But that statement didn't come up until after she, like before she filed the RCMP report in July, she called the Swarita police, her local police,
Okay, yeah.
and they asked her, I've got the reports and I've published them on the website as well, they asked her if I had ever threatened them,
Yeah.
her and her fiance, and they said no, that I'd never threatened them.
Okay.
So she didn't get what she wanted from them, so then she went to the municipal court to get the order of protection. And in there, she had said that in an email I had said that I would shoot her if it was legal, or however
Yeah.
she phrased it. She got the order of protection from there, but it was just temporary because I had to be served on me. And then she went to the RCMP, and again, it was that kind of like vague statement that I said I would shoot her if there was no risk of going to jail.
Yeah.
And the RCMP, from that, they arrested me, and then, they released me on my own recognizance. The prosecutor decided not to move forward. From that, she was seeing that she wasn't getting what she wanted, so she started escalating the severity of the allegation or of the claim. When you look at what she then said when she got on the news, she went as far now as to say that, let's see, she phrased it as, I absolutely would kill her if I wouldn't go to prison or something like that.
Okay. Like it could be taken like if you didn't get caught or something. Is that what you're saying? Like
Right, but see, it went from simply
yeah,
shooting her to now it's I would absolutely murder her.
yeah,
And if you look at her history of any kind of allegations, you're going to notice that kind of a pattern. Like it'll start out with some accusation that is kind of mild, and until she gets what she's trying to achieve from it, she'll just keep making it a harsher and harsher allegation.
okay. What's her motivation in all this? Like, why is she trying to do this to you?
She started with all this retaliation in July of last year, and it started almost immediately after, her current fiance that she's living with. She moved in with him May or June, I guess, of last year, and our son was up here until July 12th. Now, I knew that she had moved in with him, but since our son was up here, I wasn't updating the website because, I was spending time with him.
Yeah.
When he went back, then I updated the website and I put her new fiance's picture and some brief information about him and, her new address and all this. And that's when she started freaking out and doing all of this. I suspect she herself doesn't care at all, really, because she never did anything prior to that because she just didn't care, and she even admitted herself in some of the interviews. But I suspect this is all because of him. Like, he doesn't want his picture on there.
Yeah, associated to her.
Right.
Especially, especially when you post everything around her, and if it's true, like you're saying it is, probably doesn't want to be associated to her, right? So.
Right, and it makes him look bad, and
Yeah,
as it should. I mean, he's making a major life decision to be intimately involved with this woman, so yeah, it shows very poor judgment on
But
his
it'll
part.
probably be when he finds out who she is, like, you know, maybe they won't end up to be together anyway. So
Well, if that happens, if it doesn't happen, I mean, that's not my goal.
Yeah.
My interest, if I had any interest in terminating the relationship or causing the relationship to be terminated, it would only be because of my belief that he's providing financial support to her, which is enabling her to say, like, be reactionary and, you know, do these kinds of things.
yeah.
Now,
Okay.
as far as her intimate relationship with him or her being in love with him or something, I have absolutely no interest in that. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, you guys have been separated for so long, right? I think it's 2000 or 2001 or something. 2002.
We separated in 2001, yeah.
Okay.
And then the divorce dragged on forever, and then
Yeah.
eventually she got an annulment, and I didn't even bother contesting it.
Okay.
So, because of the annulment, technically we were never legally married.
Yeah.
So, now I can actually say that she wasn't actually my ex-wife.
Okay.
Because when you get an annulment, it's as though the marriage never occurred.
Yeah, it never existed.
Yeah.
So how was it that, because I know, like, you weren't, they kicked you out of the States, but if you
Repeated.
married her, how does that work if you marry her and then it got annulled? Because you're supposed to not, I know you don't get full-on citizenship.
Well, but I never applied for any kind of immigration status
Oh, okay.
through her. And I know that the Canadian government seems to have they seem to have their mind pretty much made up about where I was born and who I really was originally,
Yeah.
and that I'm a Canadian citizen. And since I want to remain living in Canada, I'm not going to correct them or dispute that. I mean, if that's what they want to say, great, more power to them.
Yeah.
I was going to say I know where I was born, but technically I don't. None of us do.
Yeah.
We only know what we're told.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But part of the reason I never applied for immigration status through her before when we were married was because I technically didn't need to.
Yeah, gotcha.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard about how I claimed that I was born in the U.S. and all
Yeah.
that. And so,
Florida, is it? Right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
but we're not going to go into all of that because that's got nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
Like
no.
I said, I'd rather remain living in Canada right now. So, you know, if you were to contact Canadian immigration or whoever and say, well, can you look into this person, find out, then that could possibly result in me being asked to leave Canada.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure you probably wouldn't do that because A, it's not your jurisdiction, you probably don't care.
You're probably right.
And
Yeah.
probably also because you probably assume that the government's position that I'm a Canadian citizen is probably true, and I'm just saying this for whatever reason. So,
I mean, yeah, it's yeah, you're pretty much hitting the nail on the head on both
Yep.
on both fronts. So, yeah, so she's said a lot of information. She's talking to the lead investigator tonight. I am kind of like I'm put in just my only task is to talk to you, so as to get and then report back to him.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. She's obviously slandering your name and saying all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yes.
And, yeah, which is not surprising. I know you've been dealing with this for 2 years or 2 years for your whole life.
well, actually, only since 2011 because she
Yeah.
was completely absent from our lives.
Yeah.
From,
So she
for
says that
time.
you had custody right until 2011. Was that in the States?
I had custody up till 2013
Okay.
after she called ICE and I ended up getting deported.
Okay.
And she even admitted in one of the interviews that I posted on the website, a radio interview,
Yeah.
she openly admitted that she called ICE and had me deported 2 times solely to get custody of our son because
Yeah.
I was trying to
I
get
can-
a supervised visitation.
Okay, I can see. Okay.
So
So I can.
it's
see,
on the website. You
So I can
see
make
it if you
that.
want.
Now I'm starting to understand more, right? Because you look at everything and you're like, well, why is this guy going to all this effort? So I can understand that. It'd be taken away from my. If I was taken away from my kid, I would.
Mm.
I don't know what I would do. So I can understand that.
One thing that's been a huge issue for my son and I, see, previously the family court in California, that's where our family court case is,
Yeah.
had said that if I provide him a mobile phone, she's not allowed to interfere with it, right? Because she has a history of getting caught recording our telephone calls.
Okay.
And so we can't speak openly and freely. Like, he can't speak honestly and openly with me because he knows that she's going to listen to them.
Yeah.
So the court said that if I provide him a mobile phone, she can't interfere with it. So I got him a phone. But last summer, after the criminal harassment incident, she took the phone away. Then, because of the order of protection, which technically is a domestic violence issue, and then she brought that up in the family court, so now the family court is showing a lot of bias toward her because the family court sees there's this order of protection, so there's a domestic violence issue, and so now I'm some big bad guy. So the family court even said at the most recent hearing in March, she doesn't have to give the phone back to him, and the only way that him and I can communicate is on the landline phone, which she records and listens to.
Yeah.
The family court also said that she has complete control or complete discretion over all visitation and over all telephone calls now. And I've done nothing other than create this website.
Yeah.
Nobody, if anybody searched through all of my history, you will never find any kind of violence or aggression or any... I mean, sure, there's been some like minor little petty crimes and stuff. You know, the typical stuff that people do.
Is that in the States or?
Well, I've been in the States for pretty much my whole life, except for like a few years here and there.
Yeah.
But even since I've been in Canada, let's see. I'm trying to think if there's like some illegal thing that I might have done. Of course, not something that I would incriminate myself on. Like little petty stuff. Like I can't even think of anything right now. Oh.
Yeah. No, that's okay. So was your reason for starting the website, is it to kind of show her true colors? Like, is it to get your son back, or is it to kind of show that exactly who she is, or like... Sorry.
I would say it as the website was created after I was deported and after it became obvious in the family court that because I was deported, the family court wasn't going to change the custody. And I realized at that point that there was a huge bias there, because now the court sees me as like an illegal immigrant who lied, and now I've been deported. And so I realized that there's no way that I would get any kind of justice from the family court.
Yeah.
This is even after my son testified in the court that he wanted to come back, that he didn't want to live with her. And then the court said, "Oh, well, we don't think he's mature enough to make that decision."
Yeah.
So that's when I created the website. The reason I created the website was, one of the reasons was to publish the truths and the realities about the kind of person that she is, because people like her keep getting away with doing all this terrible stuff because they keep like going to strangers. Like over time, people learn about how she is from dealing with her, and they go, "Oh, this is just a terrible woman. I'm just not going to deal with her."
Yeah, no, it's fair enough.
But the world's full of new people for her to.
Yeah, it'll never end, right?
Right.
It's never going to end.
So hopefully, by creating the website, it takes away some of that ability for her to keep finding new people to manipulate and to turn against you. Consider, I put a blog post on there talking about how back in 2012, when I was still in Los Angeles, she did essentially the same thing to me. Like, she was contacting people she thought were my family, and she contacted my rabbi and people from the temple there and all, and told them that I was a fugitive and an illegal alien, and that I had hid our son from her, and that I was abusive and did all these terrible things to try to turn them against me. I've never heard a single person make one reference to that. Nobody, like all these people on the internet that are saying all these terrible things about me.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever once said, "Well, but wait a second, she did the same thing to him. But why is nobody saying she's a bad person for this?"
You're probably just better at it because you're...
I'm definitely better.
Yeah, because your technology, like, you created a website and it's actually, I mean, I went on there, it's pretty, like...
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you can get around pretty easily, and the colors, and yeah, it's pretty good. You can tell. I didn't know you were in IT, and I'm like, how did you create all this? Like,
Well,
it's pretty...
Consider, though, the area of IT that I'm in has nothing to do with web development.
Okay.
Now, I've done a little web development before on some projects like years ago, so I knew a little bit about it, but I hadn't done it for years.
Okay.
So a lot of it has been some learning experience and such.
And do you do, and you're going to pray, hopefully you're impressed, I don't know this word, SEO? Search engine optimization.
No, I know.
It comes up, because I have a friend who does that, so that's
Right.
the only reason I know that word, is to get, so it comes up on Google high up.
Yeah.
It comes up pretty high, isn't it, on Google?
I know very little about search engine optimization.
Yeah.
The reason this website comes up, though, depending on what you search for, like if you search for her name, part of the reason it comes up so high now is because of all the media attention it got back in February.
Okay. I guess so it's been mentioned more online.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like before that, a few references to it would come up.
Yeah.
But you see, the more people search for something in Google, the higher it ranks it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And before this got on the news, there was only about 30 30 visitors to the website each day.
Yeah.
And the first couple of days that it was on the news, it went up to like 30,000 visitors.
Yeah.
And it was up there for a few days. And as of the time when I got arrested on the 27th, it was still somewhere around like about 200 visitors a day.
Okay.
Like, it tapered down to about 300, then kind of leveled out and went down a bit more. And it's been holding steady at about like 150 to 225 from, what was it, middle of March up until now.
And that's every day, eh?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Don't you wonder how... Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Ooh, thank you.
How was that? It's quicker than I thought. Okay, I think they're the same, so you can...
Do you mind if I move closer? Or?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, for sure. You sure? You tempted?
Oh, no.
Tempted? No? Alright, don't make fun of me here.
No, it's...
Cream, though. Alright. Cream, yeah. Sorry, so we're talking about 200 or 300 people a day.
Yeah, now, of course, consider, though, that's not actually 200 or 300 human visitors. Like, some of them are web crawlers and such, and like search engines. But I'd say probably less than 20 a day. 20 out of that 200 are search engines and things. The rest are probably human visitors.
Okay. Because I took a course actually on internet investigations.
Oh yeah.
And it was kind of interesting actually. Like it opened my mind up to the amount of stuff that we could have at our disposal, just not even without like warrants or anything. Like,
right.
Just the way we word stuff. Because you can look actually. I lost it though. I don't remember how. You can actually, and you would be able to see it, like who's visiting your site.
Oh yeah.
What the next site they go to.
Yeah. Like you could programmatically put that into the page as well, so you can get additional information. But even just by default, the web server itself.
Yeah.
Each access, and access means like each time somebody's client, like their web browser, loads a page, and then within a page there's a bunch of like images and such.
Yeah.
So every one of those things that's accessed gets written to the log and the IP address, and then from using the IP address, you can determine where geographically the person was, or the machine anyway, not the person.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you'd be able to.
Like
you're going to be able to go when you get home and see that I opened it from an RCMP computer, I guess.
Yes, 199. What was it? 199.212, I think it was.
Oh, that's our IP?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't really know how IP works.
Well, it's kind of like a telephone number.
Yeah.
Except that it has some additional functionality, like every computer on a network has to have a unique IP address, right?
Okay.
But you can have things called NATs or firewalls or gateways, where you have this device here that has one IP address that's visible on all the internet, and then all of the computers within the internal network here use like a private block that isn't accessible on the internet.
Okay.
When this computer accesses the internet, the packet or the message goes to the router, which then changes the address so that it appears it's coming from this device and then goes out to the internet.
Okay.
So that way you can have a bunch of computers, but it looks like it's just one computer.
Okay, got you.
And it seems, from looking at my access logs, it seems that almost all of the RCMP computers within Canada all go through this like small range of 199.212, which is based in Ottawa.
Yeah, I can see that.
So it's kind of...
We call back to Ottawa when we need help and stuff, and they can...
Yeah, it's...
Is it because then they can come on and control our computer? Would that be why, or is that possible? Because they do. They can take over our computer and fix stuff. And
honestly, doing it that way, setting up the IP networking that way is very nonsensical. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Because you have all these satellite offices across the country that are very geographically dispersed, and having to have all the packets go from Vancouver all the way back to Ottawa just to come all the way back over here. Like if you're accessing a site that's in North Vancouver, instead of having the packets just go from Vancouver to North Vancouver and back and forth, you're coming from here all the way here and then back there.
So slower then, right? Is that what you mean? Or?
Slower, plus it creates a single bottleneck. Because there's that one point of entry where all the packets from all the RCMP stations have to go to that one machine and then go out to the internet. But I would assume they probably do that for control or something.
Probably security or something.
Yeah.
I actually just bought a new computer. I haven't had we had a laptop before, but it's probably not that. Well, I tried to look, and I had my buddy who's helping me, and he's like, you got to get solid state drive or solid state. I don't know if that's
legit. Because they're very fast. Yeah.
Yeah. So I looked for one, and
very expensive though.
Yeah. Well, I think I spent $1,500 on this one. It was a desktop. I used to have a laptop, but then somebody stepped on it, and I'm like, we don't, because I have an iPad as well. I'm like, we don't need the laptop. I don't need the laptop. Just stick it. So it's always, because that's what I remember when I was younger. I remember having a laptop, and I kind of liked it. Like, I always had this, always there. It seemed to be faster, and the laptop seemed slow, and you can't add anything to it.
Right.
So I think I didn't get the solid state hard drive, but I think I might add that. I think you can add it after the fact.
Oh yeah.
So I think I might do that, but I don't know. I think it's, I'm trying to remember what kind of computer it is. It's like I think it has 2 terabytes of hard drive, 3-point-something gigahertz. I would imagine you probably have a nice, better computer than most, but...
Well, the thing is, though, the type of systems that I do development for and sysadmin on aren't like PCs. They don't use the Intel processors.
Okay.
Well, a lot of the professional development work that I do is for an operating system called Linux, which runs on those types of computers.
Okay.
But like my own personal stuff at home, it's all these large Unix systems.
Okay.
That run this.
Means,
would
it look like a computer if I looked at it, or is it totally like?
I was going to say I can show you a picture on my phone, but I don't have a phone.
Yeah. I'm actually curious. I don't even know.
If you have internet access.
I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, next time you're at a computer, look up like Sun Microsystems.
Sun Microsystems.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm actually curious. Like, would it look like? Would you stare at it and like? Is it totally different from a computer, or?
You'd probably be able to tell it's a computer. Like, it does look. Their workstations. Look quite different.
Okay.
Like I've got this one that's about that tall, about that wide, and it's kind of a dark blue. Yeah. It's got this big red oval shape in the front. And most of the servers that they make, because most of the development that I do typically is server development for the large server machines, those usually are designed to go into these cabinets. Yeah. And so they're called rack mount. Okay. And they usually just look kind of plain in the front because they're not designed to be aesthetic.
Yeah, I guess so. And is that, like, are those massive though? Or like, because I went through, because I was talking about the one that you had, because I went through, I had a file actually with a news company, and they kind of, hey, you want a quick tour? I'm like, oh, sure. And they took me into this room, and it was just computers, like, or I don't know, not computers, but like
these
towers, like black towers, and there's
were they like 6 feet tall? Or
something?
Yeah, those are cabinets, and within one cabinet, there's probably a bunch of servers.
Okay.
Like individual servers.
Yeah, it's a server room or something like that, yeah.
But Sun makes some servers that a single server occupies the entire cabinet. Yeah. And like even in the olden days, like some of the older generations, they had these huge ones that were like almost 2,000 pounds. Big 7-foot cabinets, and it's just one huge server with like 64 processors.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Huh. Yeah. I've always said I wanted to learn more about it, but I don't know, it's probably just not for me. Like, I don't know, I can't process it. Like, I get instructed, like, I used to, back in school, have some more knowledge, like in high school, knowledge of it, but now I've had to call, like, a buddy who's into technology to explain it to me, and I don't know if I'm just getting dumber, but I just can't wrap my head around it. It's like, how did it click? Like, I don't understand it, so...
You would ask, though, if they were very big?
Yeah.
They range in size. The smallest ones would be what's called 1U. U stands for rack unit, which refers to the height, because the width and the depth of them is pretty universal. Like, they're designed to fit into these cabinets, right?
Okay.
A 1U server is about that high.
Okay.
So it's just like a flat thing.
Yeah.
So they range in size from something like that up to like those full cabinets.
And they had a lot of those. They had like I don't know, it was the full room full.
That's cool.
Yeah, you're thinking about it right now. Like, that's cool. Yeah.
I love those big, powerful systems. Like back in Los Angeles, typically I would rent an apartment that would have one room more than what I actually need, like a 3-bedroom if it was just me and my son, because the third room would be like a server room or a computer room.
Oh, cool. Wow.
And I used to, at some points, like I would have some of those big cabinets with those kinds of machines.
Do you have that now, or?
No, not up here.
Oh, okay.
The apartment here, it was never intended to be a long-term or permanent thing.
Yeah.
I rented it because it was just up the street from EA, so I could just walk to work, because when I first moved here.
Yeah, I got you.
And I wanted something cheap and close to work, and I expected that when Gabriel, my son, came up here, we would go look for an apartment together, so, I would include him in the decision of where we would live.
Yeah.
But things started dragging on, and then it started looking like he wasn't going to be able to come up here. And then, of course, I started realizing that, well, when he turned 16, we can go to Ontario. And that's been a big issue for her, too, when she finally realized that legally, there's nothing anybody can do once he turns 16 and he steps foot into Ontario, because if the Canadian government insists that I'm a Canadian citizen, that means that he also is a Canadian citizen.
Yes. Yeah.
And the age to live on your own in Ontario is 16.
Yeah.
So, being a Canadian citizen, they can't force him to return to the U.S. So that's our plan at this point.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess you can make do in that place for now, anyway. So.
Well,
Is it? Are you able to fit your computers in there though, or is it only a 1-bedroom? Or?
Well, no, it's a 2-bedroom.
Oh, okay.
And like the servers, they tend to be kind of loud because they have a lot of fans to blow the heat. So usually when he's not here, I just put the servers in his room and keep the door closed.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
But like, there's some challenges or difficulties with the plan of him coming up here when he turns 16.
Yeah.
Remember, I said she took away his phone, right?
Yeah.
So we can't discuss it or anything.
Yeah.
And like I've told him,
no, can't email.
There's no guarantee that she's not monitoring that too.
Yeah.
But I've told him that, like, because I've provided him a credit card and a debit card, and each week I put $125 into his bank account, right?
Oh, that's easy.
Oh, thanks. Well, the credit card is for support, like anything related to clothing or medical care or school.
Yeah.
The debit card and the bank account, that's completely his own money.
Oh, that's good.
And for a long time, Desiree was trying to claim that I've been providing no financial support since he's been there. And I keep saying, but no, that's not true. I mean, he's got a credit card with like a $6,000 limit. There's no reason that he can't use that to buy clothes. And she goes, oh, he doesn't pay for any clothes and he doesn't pay for any medical care. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
She doesn't claim that anymore, though, because
it's the facts are the facts if you're giving a credit card. So.
And so, so like I told him though that he could go to a 7-Eleven and just get one of those mobile phones. They just a cheap one, right? Yeah. And I told him, put it on the credit card. I don't expect you to pay for it, and that way you can actually call me, and she won't know, and she won't be able to record it. But he hasn't done that yet, and he hasn't said why. Because she's monitoring the calls, and so I suspect she's probably taken away the debit card and the credit card, because I have access to the bank account, so I can see like what he's using them for. And the past few months or so, he's pretty much only been using it for occasionally taking out cash, which I'm guessing he probably asked her, "Can I take out some cash?" And so she goes to the bank with him, and either PayPal or Xbox charges, which he doesn't need the actual card for because they're already linked with the account. So I'm pretty sure she took those away from him, which then makes it a lot more difficult for him to get away from her when he turns 16, because he would somehow have to get to, if he gets to the airport, he would need to be able to buy the plane ticket and all.
Yeah.
He could buy it online, or I could buy it for him, except he would need to ask me, let me know that I need to buy it, but he can't speak openly with me.
Yeah.
So we have the situation where she's tried to create so many complications and difficulties that she hasn't explicitly forced me out of his life completely, which she can. She can simply just not let him talk on the phone anymore.
Yeah.
But she allows us to talk on the phone, but only if she's able to listen to it. So we can't really talk. I mean, we can make small talk, that's it. I can't give him parental advice. I can't give him guidance. He can't talk to me about personal things.
Does he still want to come up though, or?
Yes, he's never indicated that there was any change in what he wanted from that.
Yeah.
I don't bother asking him if that's still what he wants, because of course he's not gonna be able to answer, because
in front of her.
Well, see, even if he says something that isn't something that wouldn't be wrong or a basis for punishing a child, like saying his opinion.
Yeah.
If it's something that upsets her, then she'll take it out on him. She'll make him feel guilty, or she'll treat him poorly or something.
What does he think of the website?
I've talked to him about that too, and I've also been very clear with him that if anything ever happens, if any kids at school or anything ever seem to be like aware of it and is causing you any complications at all, don't hesitate to tell me, because there's no way that I would let the website cause you, meaning him, any kind of difficulty or complication.
Yeah.
And he said, well, nobody's ever said anything to me about it. And
that's good.
and as for his opinion of the website, the last time that we spoke, that we were able to speak openly and freely, which was when he was here during his summer break last year, and we were talking about it, and his opinion at that point was, why should I care what you say about her on the internet?
Okay. Fair enough.
See, everybody has this, well, not everybody, most people from the comments you see on the internet, they have this mentality that there's an inherent bond between a mother and a child, like there's some kind of automatic thing that a child automatically loves a mother. Now, I come from an environment where, how can I say this? Like, a lot of times when people say something like this, it sounds like the other person should say, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, but it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
My parents were crappy, had a crappy childhood, so I know that there's a lot of crappy parents out there, and I have no respect or love or concern at all for my parents. Like, when I left home at 14 and then moved on with my life, I never had any interest in keeping in touch with them.
Yeah.
But then again, I was molested and abused and stuff, and grew up on the street, so it's a little more harsh than what he's going through, I think.
Well, I know everyone says it, but I am sorry to hear that, because that's the stuff I deal with usually. So, and I know that obviously you have to tell me twice that there's crappy parents, because the stuff that we deal with and see, like, that's mainly what I deal with is
right
children being molested, and
And so when you have a child that has a parent, like a mother who left when he was 1.5 years, and she was out of his life for the whole time, and then she forces herself back into his life when he's 11, takes him by force to another state, tries to get custody, tries to get a court order preventing him from having any telephone contact with the father, then the court orders her to return him to the father, and then she still doesn't get her way, so then she has the father deported. I refuse to believe that any child is going to have much respect or love for that kind of a parent.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to be there in the first place, and she's done nothing but cause problems since she's been here.
And he's probably a smart kid too, right?
I hope so.
He's getting older now. He's going to start seeing the way things are. And
he sees.
Acting. Exactly. He's not blind, so. Yeah, no, that's rough. I mean, I was going to say, good for you. Like, all aside, good for you. Like, you've turned. It's good to see somebody because I'm dealing with these kids now. Actually, it's good to see, and I always tell them. This is something I always tell them when we get to the end of the file. Look me up in like 10 years when they're at their lowest to their lowest. Look me up when I know you're going to make it to something successful one day, and come and find me because I want to hear about it and see it. But I 100% mean it, because I see these kids, a lot of them, like 10 to 14, like that. And I hope that one day this will be a great experience for them, and that they'll be successful. So good for you.
Thank you.
Not a lot of people turn out that way. That you can,
that
you have that rough childhood, and now you've got your own kid, good morals, and got a good job. So it's admirable.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the time, like, because of the kind of work that I do, obviously I don't tell anybody that I have a professional relationship with about any of that. Everybody thinks I just had a typical middle class background. But like, even on my resume, I say I went to UBC. And the reason I chose UBC was because since I'm in Vancouver, I expected, one thing people would ask a lot is, well, why would you come from the US to Vancouver? Because not a lot of Americans come up here. And so I put UBC on my resume, so that way I could say, oh, well, I went to school here, and I liked it, and so that's why I came back here. But I forget where I was going with that.
I was telling you, I don't know, we were talking about... about...
I think it's very rare that people grow up in that kind of crummy environment and then go on to do well, because typically their entire childhood was that crummy environment. And I think the difference in my case was there was a few years of my childhood that I spent with my grandparents, which was away from like all the drugs and the abuse and everything. So then when I was 10, I went back with my parents again, or with my mother. But at that point I had seen that there was more to life, like it didn't have to be that way. Except at the same time, my other siblings, they also had that same opportunity, but they all except for one of them ended up crappy and on drugs and stuff. And
And they're still in the States then, or are they in Canada?
I decline to comment on that.
That's fine. I was only curious. I'm trying to...
I can tell you they're all still where they grew up, the city they grew up in.
That's fair enough. I'm just curious. So I always find it interesting. I know because in the States, if you commit a crime down there, you do serious time. So
yeah, and a felony down there sticks with you your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Depending on the state. Like Arizona, Arizona's a very law and order state. And if you have a felony there, your life is very difficult after that. California is much more forgiving.
Yeah, that's like with everything with California. They're much more like Canada than the rest of the. I have a buddy in the Army, Canadian military, that married a California girl. And he'd never been to California. He's like, dude, they're really similar to Canada. They're much more progressive. Like they're just a lot, Yeah, you should go. I've been to California now, but at the time I hadn't been. But
right.
Yeah, it was. It was nice. It's nice down there. I really like California. I would totally live there. It's probably the only place I would live. California or like Oregon. Probably only because I know. It's because peace of mind because I've been there. And that's about it. But or Hawaii. That's my dream. But
I've never been there.
Oh, I still every time I talk about Hawaii, I just don't know if I had an amazing time there, but. I think I come back and like we're all dumb here. What are we doing? We should be in Hawaii. It was beautiful, perfect every day. Like I got to figure out a way to retire there. It was amazing. It's beautiful, perfect weather. It doesn't get too hot. Like it's just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely recommend it. It's expensive though, and everybody seems to be prodding for money anywhere you go.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So, I think that gives you a pretty good idea of why I hate Desiree with respect to the complications that she's been causing with the child custody and all. But there's still more to it than just that. There's the issues of, like, my life in the U.S.
Yeah.
Now, let's put aside any questions of whether I'm a U.S. citizen or a Canadian citizen for a moment. The fact was, I was living in the U.S. for most of my life, regardless of which country I'm a citizen of.
Yeah.
The government didn't care. Generally, they don't care about people like illegals for the sake of argument. I'm not saying I was an illegal.
Yeah.
As long as you're not getting in any kind of trouble with the law, right? So even after I got out of ICE custody and then I went back to Los Angeles, nobody cared that I was there until she had contacted them and filed these false reports and stuff. And I say they were false because she was alleging that I was a fugitive, that I had previously been deported, and that I had re-entered the U.S. illegally. Now, even if we assume that I am a Canadian citizen, those 3 points would still be false. I wasn't a fugitive. I hadn't previously been deported because ICE hadn't actually deported me in 2011. They just brought me to the border and then left me there.
Yeah.
Not like today where they brought me to the border, but actually brought me across and gave me to CBSA.
Okay.
And whatever the third one was. So she has deliberately created a situation where, like, even though I'm not interested in returning to the U.S. to live at this point, she's made it so that I can't even go back and visit friends or family that live in Los Angeles. I can't attend any of our son's school functions, like when he graduates and stuff, when he's got some major thing going on. What else can I not do? Oh, and then with that restraining order. Well, of course, the restraining order only affects me if I'm in the U.S. So that's not really a huge deal. And admittedly, most of the reason I've been challenging the restraining order is just to be a pain in her ass.
Okay.
Because really, like, from a legal perspective, it means nothing since I'm in Canada.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
Unless, of course, if I either intended at some point to return to the U.S. legally, or if I expected that at some point I was going to be required to return to the U.S. Like if at some point the Canadian government did look into it and go, well, wait a second, there was a person named Ricky Reese that was born on November 24th, 1973 in Sudbury, Ontario. The problem, though, is that there's nothing that connects this physical human being with this person, that's kind of the whole point that I've been saying to people all along is, yes, there was this person that was born there. I did assume that person's identity in the U.S. back in 1993, and I've been very open about that with ICE and all. But there's never been any evidence that says that I am this person.
Okay.
But that's
What's-
another issue for...
Yeah, like I know she fears that you're gonna like. I think her also fears that you're gonna kill her.
You say
her, right? Like
you say
she made mention of firearms. So
yes, but wait, you say she fears. Now, are you saying she claims?
She claims.
Oh, okay.
She claims.
Because I was going to say, if you listen to the radio interview that she did, that I put on the website, that radio interview was done the day after the CBC story aired.
Okay.
And you listen how in there's no fear in her voice. She's laughing and joking about the stuff on the website. She's joking about how her coworkers would come to her and say, "Oh, you've got some." What was the word she used? I can't remember. But telling her that she's very brave and courageous for putting up this website, and there's no fear there. She doesn't.
She makes mention of firearms, so that's.
Oh yeah. Well, she knows that throughout my entire life, I've always been in the U.S. We would call it a Second Amendment enthusiast, or firearms enthusiast, and it's always been one of my major or significant hobbies, pastimes. In the U.S., you're allowed to use firearms for self-defense as well, and so at home I would always have one or two around for home defense. Here in Canada, because the laws are different, I would never use it for defense, and it would be impractical anyway, because since it has to have a trigger lock plus be in a locked container, by the time you would get through all these locks plus load a magazine, well, you'd already be dead.
So it's like a safe room to give you some time.
Yeah.
Door. Yeah.
Now, since she knows that that is one of my favorite hobbies or pastimes or recreations, and that's one of the things that Gabriel and I do a lot when he comes up here. Is it's as a father and a son, we bond, we go to the shooting range and all, and I got him this rifle because he likes the old World War II stuff. So she brings that up because she's trying to get that taken away. She's trying to make it so that I won't have that, because from her perspective, and this is speculation, of course, I realize, but from her perspective, she's thinking, what can she do to to harm me or to adversely affect me? She's got that. She already got me deported from the U.S., so, and she's done a few things that kind of give the impression that she might be trying to see if she could get me deported from Canada now, too. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned it in one of the blog posts about how whenever she talks with anyone in the U.S., like law enforcement or reporters, she always makes sure to mention that I was deported from the U.S. and that I was an illegal alien. Whenever she speaks with the Canadian journalists or law enforcement, she might mention that, but she always makes sure to provide a copy of that Florida birth certificate, which kind of raises the question of, well, is this person even a Canadian citizen? Mm-hmm. Kind of like she's trying to drop this hint that, he's not supposed to be there. So I think that's the only reason she brings up the firearms. Consider, if you will, prior to when she called the RCMP or when she filed for the restraining order, she has never once expressed any concern about the firearms. Not in the family court or, not any of the whole time that I was living in the U.S., like when her and I were living together in California, never expressed a concern until she moved in with her current boyfriend and he showed up on the website.
Okay. Then
all of a sudden firearms became a big deal.
So because she said, I shouldn't say she said, but I think the fear is is that we're going to take the firearms down across the border. Obviously, we know you weren't caught with the firearms, or else that would be a different story. With
that would be very illegal.
Yes.
And I keep saying, I won't do anything illegal.
Yeah, okay. So are they still back at your house then?
Well, they're in storage because I'm in the process of moving.
Okay. They're in storage at one of those private storage facilities, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Whereabouts?
Can we come back to that in a bit?
Sure.
Okay.
Because you obviously you have to keep that updated right with the CFRO, so where the
firearms are. What I read on the RCMP website was when you move, you have 30 days from the time that you move, but it doesn't clarify from the time you move out of one place or the time you move into the new place. It just says 30 days from the date that you move.
Okay. We can come back to that. That's fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
The reason that I want to come back to that is I kind of want to get a feel for where we're going with this. If my PAL is going to be revoked, if I have to surrender them, fine, I accept that because
I honestly you don't have to I said I don't believe everything everyone tells me. You don't have to believe everything I'm saying. I started my shift at 7 p.m. tonight. I'm just reporting back to the legal
no problem.
I just kind of go back to him with information.
Yeah.
So I was given a bunch of information. I don't know how much of it is true. I'm very skeptical. I don't believe everything I read and hear and all that. So I'm just going to go back with him with what I know. So in the end, he decides on what happens. So so I don't know what's going to happen with your firearms license or what have you. So
let me ask you if I can. I don't know if you're allowed to tell me this, but I couldn't imagine you wouldn't be able to. Obviously, she had contacted the RCMP again recently because you had mentioned that she was being interviewed, and I'm sure you guys didn't reopen this investigation on your own. Are you able to tell me when that contact or when this investigation started again? I mean,
it was sometime after. I think it was the U.S. border authorities called because they had a Canadian citizen in custody, and that's how it kind of. Yeah, that's where it all started.
I see.
I don't know the connection between because it wasn't really something that I thought I would look into because I only had a short period of time. I don't know how the connection came from where it all turned against.
Right.
Obviously, I would imagine it because they was fear that you were going to Arizona.
The intelligence investigator that I was speaking with did bring that up. He did mention that he had a bit of a concern because there's that one blog post that talks about the logistics. If I have that one blog post that says about how ridiculous her allegation or her claim is because of all the logistics that would be involved in going to Arizona, shooting her, and actually getting away with it. Yeah. And so he said, well, what you did here today, crossing the border like this, kind of almost sounds like what you were saying in there. But then I pointed out to him that what I said in that post was the reason I would have to sneak into the U.S. is because I would have a firearm with me, and I couldn't go through customs with that. I'd have to declare it through customs. And even if they allowed me to go with a firearm, there'd be a record of me bringing the firearm in, which would make it hard to get away with.
Okay.
But when I crossed the border, I didn't have any firearm with me.
Okay.
But also that whole post was about the logistics that would be involved in getting away with it, not the logistics in actually doing it.
Yeah.
Going to Arizona and shooting her would be very simple. And I wouldn't have to use one of my guns from here. I mean, I could easily just go down to the U.S., buy one on the black market. But the thing is, it would be very difficult to get away with something like that because you'd have to be very careful not to leave any kind of record or paper trail. And I'd have to rent a car because she lives 20 miles outside of Tucson.
Yeah.
So there'd be a record there. And then there's just the possibility, if you got caught in Arizona, they have the death penalty. If I did that and if I shot her, now first, of course, we have to clarify shooting someone and killing someone are not the same thing. If you shoot someone in the foot, they won't necessarily die. But we're going to assume the intent would be to kill the person. Because what's the point in shooting her in the foot? I mean, because then she would just tell the police and they'd come and arrest me.
Yeah.
If I was to go there and murder her, it's completely unfathomable that I'd be able to get away with that. I have my mobile phone with me. When I crossed, I had my mobile phone, and so there'd be GPS records of where the phone was located. There would be, I had my credit card, so obviously, I only had $340 in cash on me. So obviously, I was intending to use the credit cards. I couldn't make it all the way down there with that. So, I think that what he was suggesting with that, I don't think that.
So what's your reason for going down?
Just to go visit in Los Angeles. I hadn't been back to Los Angeles in, about 3 years.
Okay.
I do have friends that I've had for a long, long time.
Yeah.
That I haven't been able to see for 3 years, and I was expecting that soon I was going to be moving to Ontario, like I said. So I thought, well, since I'm not working on a project right now, I have the time off. So now would be a good time to go down there and spend a few weeks there, come back, and then move to Toronto.
Okay.
And that was it. Yeah.
Did you let them know that you were coming down to see them in California, your friends?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure you've had a look at the text messages on my phone, right?
I haven't.
Oh, okay. I know Border Patrol did.
Okay.
They asked me if I would give them the code, and they said, well, if you don't give us the code under this statute, I can't remember which one, we can hold the phone long enough to break into it, and it could
Yeah.
be 3 months before you get your phone back. And I wasn't hiding anything, so
Okay.
I told them, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
But there's text messages in there with my friend in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. That you're gonna go see him and whatnot. Okay. And like, where were you gonna stay then?
At her place.
Oh, at her place. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it more than a friend or just a friend?
No, just a friend. It's the same friend that was taking care of Gabriel while I was in custody in the U.S.
Okay. Yeah, because obviously, I mean, have you ever tried to cross the border before like that?
Oh yes, many times.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And gotten away with it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
This
I always think it because I thought so. When I first saw it, I thought you got nabbed because they have like I don't know exactly what they have, but I know they have technology down there to track or something.
Yeah, I think that's more as a deterrent, honestly. Like, they tried to convince me that that's how they saw me, with the cameras there. But I'm pretty sure, like I said, I think it was that car that was driving by.
Okay.
Because it seemed very peculiar that he almost came to a complete stop, but then decided to continue on. And having motion detectors out there wouldn't be very effective, because anytime a car drives by or an animal or something, I mean... so I think that's what it was. It was just very unfortunate
Yeah.
that at that precise moment that car just happened to drive by. If I was like 30 seconds sooner or later...
Were you like literally walking across the border when that car went by, or?
Well, no, I was... Okay, you know there's Zero Avenue?
Yeah, Zero Avenue and what? Because I do know Zero Avenue quite well.
272nd, that's where the border crossing is. Or no, 272nd is that one small street.
I grew up there.
And
in
just...
Aldergrove.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Just west of that, there's that street that... It's the main street that turns into Guide Meridian in the U.S. where there's the border crossing.
Just west of 272nd, you said?
Yeah, the major street that has the border crossing.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, are you talking? So, I know it gets kind of weird there. So, you go, and then there's that huge hill, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that comes up onto 272nd, and then you go. In my head, I can picture it so easily. But there's a big hill that, and then if you're going to go west of the border, you'd have to, if you're going to drive it,
Yeah.
you'd have to go down a big hill and then make, like, you go down 272nd, make a big left, and then you go down Zero Avenue, which is flat there.
Yeah.
So down in that area, west
Yeah,
of
so-
272nd, I guess.
Well, at exactly 272nd and Zero Avenue,
Yeah.
like I'd walk down 272nd, and then just as I got to Zero Avenue, that's where the car came along, and then almost stopped, but then kept going. And you know how there's okay, so we're facing.
Oh, I'm thinking 260. Never mind.
Facing
I was
south.
confusing 264th
Oh, okay.
because 264th is actually where the
Yeah, that's where they
border
have
is.
the.
Sorry, let me reset. 272nd, not the big hill. But no, I was thinking 264th. You know where I'm talking?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
that big hill.
Yeah, that's the one that turns into Guide Meridian. Now, I've
Yeah.
never actually gone down
Okay.
that street, but
Yeah.
I know 264th turns into Guide Meridian.
272nd. Okay. Okay, I know.
It's
yeah.
like the next
pretty rural
street. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all rural.
Yeah.
But when you get to Zero Avenue there, and then so that we're from the same perspective.
Yeah.
So there's Zero Avenue, and probably about 30 feet over there,
Yeah.
there's, like, you know how there's a ditch separating
Yeah,
Zero
yeah.
Avenue and Boundary Road? But over about 30 feet, the ditch is filled in. There's a manhole that goes down to the sewer or something.
Yeah.
And there's just like a little barrier thing that's about yay high. So you just go over to there, and you just step over the barrier like that,
Okay.
and then double ditch road on the US side, walk straight down to Linden.
Yeah.
And so I started walking down double ditch road.
Yeah.
Now, first it's open and there's fields there, but then as you get, I don't know, 200-300 feet down, there's trees on the sides. And so as I was walking down and it was open, there's a lot of visibility. So I thought, well, once I get to where those trees are, though, then I'll, be covered by the trees, and so nobody will see me.
Yeah.
I got to where the trees were, and just after that, the Border Patrol truck came up. And
Did they come with lights and sirens?
oh no!
Oh,
No. And the first one was this woman, and she was very nice, very friendly, and she said, "Hey, did you just jump the border over there?" And I went, yeah.
Well, at least you admitted.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're caught and there's no point in trying to deny it at that point.
Did you ever think of making a run for it?
Oh no, never.
Were you
Oh,
quite
certainly
ways?
not back anyway.
Yeah, you were quite a ways in, or
I would guess it was about 300-400 feet maybe.
okay.
And then 2 other Border Patrol trucks pulled up behind her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm more the type that would think something through as much as possible ahead of time and try to think what kinds of questions might they ask and how should I respond to them. Not how should I lie to them, but just, then the type that would not plan and just run.
Okay. I gotcha. When you were sitting in your cell, did you think, I shouldn't even went for a run for it, or no?
Oh, no, never. That would have been futile. First of all, they're in trucks. And they're coming from behind. Yeah. And I'd have to...
And I'm sure maybe one of them had a dog too, you never know.
I didn't see any dog, but of course they had guns.
Yeah. I wonder if they would... I don't think they would shoot you though. I think if you're running... I don't know.
Tasers too.
Tasers, they'd probably do that.
Yeah.
They can get... Yeah, they'd probably tase you, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think
thank you for the coffee, by the way. The headache is gone. I feel much better.
Yeah, good. Actually, mine too. So that's good. So... that was her fear, I think, and the fear of the initial investigator was that you were trying to take a firearm down there to go and kill her. Sure. The fear.
Okay, I can understand how they would come. By they, I mean the investigator, not her. I would never try to understand her reason. But I can understand how they could come to that kind of an assumption. But the thing is, there's such a huge line between crossing the border illegally, or even between smuggling one or more firearms into the U.S. and crossing the border illegally and actually killing someone. As much as I hate and despise her, and as much as I hope that she gets cancer and dies slowly and painfully, how can I say? I would never do something that could result in me spending the rest of my life in prison, or it could result in me getting the death penalty. Because I have to think about my son and how that's going to affect him, and who's going to provide for him. I mean, he's got university education coming up soon, and there's a lot of responsibilities there. And even without taking into account all of the moral implications of it, because, I mean, I'm not fanatically religious, but I am Jewish, and one of the commandments is, you shall not commit murder.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, even if I was to run into her on the street, I might be very tempted to get very angry and punch her, but I wouldn't, because then that would be assault, and then I'd be charged with something, and that would be a violent crime, and I might lose my pal as a result of it. But to the point of murder or attempted murder, absolutely not. There's no way that I would do something like that.
Okay. I would imagine now it's been a while. Like, I don't know how often you usually update the website. Is this the longest you've gone? It's been 2 weeks, or
it's been.
Is that the first thing you do when you get home?
No, I'm not going to update it right away. I've got a ton of emails and stuff.
Yeah.
Got to go through all my emails, deal with all my professional issues first. Updating the website isn't a high priority at this point.
Yeah.
But yes, certainly I'm going to continue to update it. Sorry, was there more?
No, I was here. I was here. That was the first thing you were...
I was trying to think, is there more that I should say as well?
Yeah.
Like, since I've been in custody, there's not much... Oh, I did get some new police reports, though.
Okay.
So I've got some recorded interviews. The time when her fiance, not the current one, the previous one, was arrested, and there was the search warrant. They searched the home for the AR-15 and all. The police they interviewed her, and I just recently, while I was in custody, got the audio recordings of that.
Oh, okay. They just handed it to you, or maybe
I usually have them sent to a friend in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
See, because the Freedom of Information Act and the Privacy Act in the U.S.
So I see.
If you're not in the U.S., then they could use that as a basis to say, well, we don't need to send this to you because you're not in the U.S.
I gotcha. How does it work for like the servers? Because how are you able to upload all these videos?
How does it work for? What do you mean?
No, because I always pictured for you to have a website with videos that would really be really slow. Like, do you have just servers or something, or big servers in your house that can operate this stuff?
Well,
or?
when I first created the site, I had a hosting plan with GoDaddy, the hosting company in the US. Now, Desiree claims that she had filed a complaint with them and they took the site down, but actually what happened was she filed a complaint with them. They asked me to respond, and I said, well, you know what, rather than dealing with responding, I'm just going to move it to my own server.
Okay.
So it's not that GoDaddy took it down. I just voluntarily said, well, you know what, I'm just not going to deal with it.
Yeah.
So then for a while, a year and a half or so, I was hosting it on my own server. In my living room. And then back in January, a month before the media thing happened, I had a gut feeling. I was like, maybe I should move it to a hosting provider and get it out of the living room here. So then I moved it to a server in Iceland because it was a very deliberate choice to use Iceland. 2 reasons. 1, they have very liberal free speech laws. And 2, they have a history of not caving in or bowing down to the pressures of the U.S. government.
Okay.
And even though there's nothing illegal about the website, my experience with the U.S. government is legal and illegal doesn't really mean a lot to them.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Okay. So then, I'm confused. I don't know how that works. But no. I'm just trying to figure out how you would. You would go on your computer.
Well, wait, before I answer that, let me think if there's any legal implications about this. Yes, that I'm going to opt not to comment on because there may potentially be some legal implications that I'm not aware of. Like, there may be some issue, or the prosecutor or crown attorney, however you call them here, might be able to try to twist it around and say, well, you connected to the server from a machine that's located in Canada and uploaded it to that machine, so we then have jurisdiction. See, because since the server is outside of Canada, the Canadian government has no authority or jurisdiction to say what is hosted on that machine. And one of the arguments that I've raised over the past couple of years or so has been the Canadian government may have authority to compel me to do or not do something when I'm in Canada. But if I get into a boat, go out into international waters, and use a wireless device, the Canadian government then has no authority over it. Or also, I could go down to the border, step 2 feet into the U.S., then it becomes the state of Washington would have jurisdiction.
Okay.
So, for that reason, since it's kind of a gray area that the prosecutor might be able to twist around or something, it's probably better that I not make any comments about how the data gets from point A to the server.
Okay. From the computer that you're using to the server. That's essentially what we're talking about.
I can't comment on that. See, because
okay, fair enough.
It's possible we could say that I'm not actually the person uploading the stuff to the server. We could say that I send the information to another person, have them upload it to the server, or we could say that I upload it to another server somewhere else, which then a script runs automatically each night or something, which then updates it on the server in Iceland.
Okay.
So there's various ways that it could be done, so that it wouldn't be direct.
I'm not proud of that. Like, there's no doubt in our mind that you were the creator of the website.
Definitely. I'm the creator and the maintainer. Yes.
Yeah, we get that. I'm not trying to prove anything. I was just curious, more or less, how, because we're talking about servers. I pictured that it had to be a big one if you had to run because your site was quite quick. So I know I've been on slow sites before, so I was figuring how.
Really, you found it quick?
Yeah.
Myself, I've been a little unhappy sometimes with the speed of the hosting provider in Iceland. But what I'm paying for mainly is the free speech and the not bowing down to the U.S. government.
Yeah.
So I tolerate the slow speed sometimes.
Is it expensive?
The plan I have right now is kind of expensive. It's like $36 a month or something.
Oh, that's not terribly expensive.
Well, the first plan that I had with them was only about $8 or $9 a month.
Oh, yeah.
But after the thing came out on the news, so many people were going to the site and they kept hitting the resource limits, and so people were just getting this page saying, resources maxed out.
Okay.
So then I upgraded to the next level, which was I think $16 or $17. But then again, it kept maxing out. So then I upgraded to the highest plan. But my intention is when the current plan runs out, I'm going to downgrade it back down because now the activity has gone down.
Yeah, maybe that's why it's quick then for me because it's gone down a bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. She also made mention, and like I read about it, like emails that you guys are sending back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I know that you could be skeptical of that for sure. Obviously, that if the emails that we have, because they got a bunch of emails that they're making mention to. She's alleging that it's unwanted contact and that you're harassing her and like she's provided a bunch of emails that I've read maybe a couple of them.
Sure.
What's your reason for continually trying to reach out to her that way? Because if you just had the website, I thought, isn't that good enough? Or what's your reason for emailing her as well?
Okay, first I have to say there's been no email communication since the July 21st arrest.
Yeah.
And the reason my communication with her stopped at that point was the condition of the release on the, they released me on my own recognizance on the condition that I not contact her except to arrange travel and visitation for our son. So at that point I discontinued any contact, but eventually that kind of went away because the prosecutor decided not to move forward with it. But I still decided not to continue any contact because, what was the point? See, when I was having contact with her before, it kind of benefited her because I would keep her informed of what my intentions were for the. I don't want to use the word attacks. My intentions with respect to my pursuits to ruin her life legally, of course, and so that would kind of give her a heads up so she could prepare for them. But by not being able to have contact with her, it worked to my benefit because then, see, the reason I would give her a heads up before is because I would have a sense of moral obligation that if somebody is doing something to you and you're going to retaliate, you should give them a warning first to tell them, look, if you don't stop, I'm going to do whatever back to you. But by not being able to contact her, that absolved me of that moral obligation, so then it was much more effective, like the things that I would do.
Okay. Yeah, because I took a couple of emails.
One thing you should notice about the emails, though, I'm guessing a lot of them probably at the end says that, has her part clipped out or not included?
Her, what you were responding to, or is that what you mean? Okay.
And also, my communication style differs from hers somewhat in that, she tends to be very concise, but at the same time very ambiguous and very unclear in what she's saying. Whereas I strive to be as clear as possible, so my emails tend to be much longer because I want to make sure that I'm understood properly. But sometimes I have a tendency to forget a certain point, and so I'll have a follow-up email. And that's why sometimes you'll see there'll be 4 or 5 responses.
Yeah. Okay. Who's Sage?
Sage is her other son.
Oh, okay. I didn't know she had another son. Older, younger?
Younger than Gabriel.
Okay.
Yeah. This is with yet another man.
Okay.
After her and I separated, she went back to Florida and got back together with the guy that she was with before her and I met. They eventually got married, and then they had that son, Sage. She was with him until 2010, I think it was, which is when they broke up and started their divorce, and then she started going out with Christopher Lochner, who was the meth user and all that dangerous stuff. And then she was engaged to him, and then they broke up when he got arrested and went to prison, but she continued to live in his family's home until he got out, and then she had to move out. And then she hooked up with James Pendleton, who is her current fiancé.
Okay.
I know there's this endless stream of fiancés.
Yeah. I'm trying to make sense of it. So this is the one, despite that my primary goal in life is for you to experience as much misery as possible.
Yes, I don't deny that.
Okay.
Absolutely. But once again, I emphasize legally, within the bounds of the law.
This is the one. I think, did you title it More Plans? Or is that, because I wasn't sure if that's something, because I was looking in headers basically, but is this the...
I probably titled it More Plans. The date on this is January 28th, 2015. Okay, being in primary.
What's
Okay.
Solar? Is that your company?
That's one of my companies. Yeah.
Okay. Your person when you work at, you mean, or when you work for?
I am an employee of the company, but I'm also the, what do they call it here, director? It's a corporation. I was the one that incorporated it.
Okay.
Technically, I'm not the owner of the company because all of the shares of the company are owned by the company itself.
Okay.
But I would say, from giving this a quick look, it looks like something that I would have written. Of course, I'd have to check my emails to make sure, because she could have easily, gone in and changed some words and stuff. So I can't.
But you emailed her from other email accounts too, right? I saw.
Well, but see, even this though, for all we know, this could have been typed up in a word processor, and she could have modified it in any way.
Yeah.
So I would need to, of course, compare it word for word with what I have in the my email logs. So, for that reason, what I'm saying is I can't attest to the authenticity of every word in here. I would say, sure, it looks like something that I might have written. Now, is there some point of concern in here? If so, I might be able to explain the meaning.
There was something I was... I don't believe there was...
okay.
I think it was... Well, that one, I guess, but I wasn't sure. But now I've kind of come to realize what you mean by that now. As much misery as possible.
By pursuing things or by trying to do things like making it so that she can't get a job, but by doing it legally, by publishing proof of the kind of person she is, proof of her drug use, proof of how she's a compulsive liar. She goes on TV and says this one thing, and the next day she goes on the radio and completely contradicts it. She wouldn't think twice about making up lies about a person, ruining the person's life. The project I had at Vtech, it was a pretty lucrative project. I was doing quite well there. And I'm technically not supposed to talk about the terms of why the position ended, coincidentally 2 days after the CBC story came out. The severance package, So this is completely off the record between...
nothing's off. I gotta stop you. Because I've had people... I don't know what you're gonna say, so I don't even bother going down that. Nothing's off the record.
But you can probably infer from the fact that my position there ended 2 days after the CBC story, and I can say they agreed to continue paying my salary for the next period of time, few months, on the condition that I agreed not to discuss the terms of why the employment ended.
Okay, fair enough.
From that, I'm sure you can infer. Yeah. So she wasn't the only person. She likes to paint this picture. She even said on the news in the interviews that he gets away with it. He raises the bar and he just keeps getting away with it, and nothing ever happens to him. How the hell can she say nothing ever happens to me? I've lost my son. I haven't seen him for almost a year. Yeah. And meanwhile, she's the one that keeps doing all this stuff, and everybody just keeps feeling sorry for her, and she says that nothing happens to me. I'm the one sitting in a police station.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's the guy, James Hilden.
Yes.
Is that from the app, or is that just...
No, that's...
Because people believe that. I looked at some of the comments. People actually think that's what he looks like, but that's...
Really?
Yeah. No, I read it, and I'm like, oh, it's... I'm like, comments on under reports never cease to amaze me, but... It's well done, because it looks like it could look like...
There's an image editing program that's commonly used in Linux and Unix environments called GIMP, the GNU Image Manipulation Program, kind of like Photo Paint or Photoshop or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I used that, and there's a filter that you make a ellipsis shape around the area that you want to expand or contract. Yeah. And so I just kind of bugged out the eyes and did a pinch
of his
on the mouth part.
It looks like it could be pretty at first glance you're like, ooh, that's a weird looking guy, but
when may I ask, when was this printed?
Today I think I did this.
Mind if since I've been in custody for the past few weeks, I haven't been able to keep up with. I'm just curious how many views. 278, 130. This one has been getting a lot of views. See, a lot of James Pendleton, that's her fiance.
Okay.
A lot of people have been interested in how long is James going to keep putting up with this woman, and so.
Okay, but he's still with her, I guess. Apparently, yeah. Alright, I'm gonna be right back.
Okay.
Do you need some water or anything? Or you,
Oh,
is your
no,
coffee done?
I've still got a bit in here.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I'm done. I have to work till 6 a.m., so I'm gonna be doing another one, so later at some point. Alright. I'll be right back. We don't need that, I guess. Bring it up just a clip.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There was one point that I kept wanting to mention but kept forgetting.
Yeah.
The order of protection and the injunction against harassment are both on appeal, and there was a hearing scheduled for oral arguments. I think it was June 7th or something.
Okay.
I was in ICE custody at the time, of course, so I didn't appear for that. So it occurs to me that it's possible those restraining orders may have been vacated on appeal for all I know at this point, which could also be part of the reason she's like making a big deal about things now. She has this kind of misguided belief that the order of protection makes any difference at all. Because, see, the reason it doesn't, and again, I talked about this on the website, since I have the felony in the U.S., I'm already prohibited from possessing firearms in the U.S. So the order of protection, like the firearms prohibition, makes no difference. I'm already prohibited, right?
Yeah.
And since if I'm an illegal alien in the U.S., again, prohibited from possessing a firearm. So, what does she gain by having the order of protection? Absolutely nothing. I mean,
Okay.
whether it was there or not, I'm already prohibited from possessing a firearm in the U.S.
Yeah. And it's just a piece of paper anyway, so if she's
Yeah.
really... Yeah, I get what you're saying there. So we touched on the firearms.
Mhm.
Where are they right now?
They're, okay, admittedly, they are in the U.S.
Okay.
But not because I had any intention of using them.
Yeah.
It was because I was planning on moving to Toronto. I don't know anybody in Toronto, so I couldn't ship them ahead of time to Toronto and have somebody hold them there for me.
Yeah.
So I shipped them to somebody that I actually knew that would hold them until I get to Toronto and then forward them to me.
Okay. In California?
Yes.
Okay. The same guy you were talking to with text messages?
I declined to comment on that further at this point, mainly because I don't want to get that person in any kind of trouble.
Yeah. Okay.
If, as I said, if there's an issue with the PAL, if it's going to be revoked or suspended or something, I have no problem with having them sent back here. I can have them shipped directly to the RCMP or something. I mean,
Why should I believe you that that your intent wasn't to try and go? I mean, this looks bad. Right? I mean, the firearms are in the States. You're trying to go across the border.
sure. Why you shouldn't? Because, as I had said, level of severity, crossing the border, going down to the U.S., kind of down here, murder, kind of up here. If I cross the border to go visit some people in the U.S., the worst that's going to happen, spend a month and a half in ICE custody, get deported back here. Go and murder someone in a state that has capital punishment, worst that can happen, spend the rest of my life in prison or get the electric chair or gas chamber or whatever.
So you're saying your reason for sending the guns to California
Is because I was in the process of moving. All of my important critical stuff, I was gradually putting it into storage or like sending it somewhere that can be held until I got to Toronto.
Okay. You understand, though, we're probably going to figure out where those firearms were sent to.
Oh yeah, and I have no
Yeah.
problem
Yeah.
telling you. It's just I really don't want to get that person in any kind of trouble.
Because obviously that's going to probably be one of the main things that they investigate now. And there's many ways that they can figure that out, right? So I'm not saying they're going to find that out, but they're going to look and they're going to try and find that out. So I'm
Sure.
asking you, where they were sent to, if you want to try and talk about more about why, like to show that your intent wasn't to kill her, and that I was actually just sending it to John Smith because he was going to send them to Toronto, or like how, that's where I'm confused, like why you wouldn't just...
Okay, first, the friend that I sent them to doesn't actually know that they're there.
Okay.
Because I put them inside of a computer and shipped the computer
Okay.
to her. So all she knows is...
I'm going to stop you.
Computer, yes.
Right there. I don't want to talk about that any further because what you just talked about, I'm going to have to go look, maybe a crime. So I'm going to stop you
In the
there.
U.S., yes, it would be.
Yeah, I'm going to stop
Not in
because I don't have knowledge of
Right.
that 100% because I don't deal with the border that
Right.
often, but I'm going to stop you on that. So
Yes, thank you.
yeah, I may talk about that afterwards.
Mhm.
I want to look into more into that, but
Being a PAL holder, I'm allowed to ship firearms by mail or courier or something. And there's no restriction that I'm aware of. However, within the U.S., like shipping things across state lines and stuff, there's all kinds of restrictions. So, yes, let's put that aside for the time being.
yeah, let's stop talking about it. Okay, so okay. So yeah, we know where the firearms are now. Actually, give me a second. I want to check on that, okay?
Sure.
Give me a moment.
Is there a restroom I can use, or?
Yeah, here. Well, let me just grab my recorder. This we went. Oh, wait, 1 second. This way, 1 second. Come with me here. I'll just check and see if we're clear. Hey, Doc, are we clear for a guy to come through to go to the washroom?
You want male or female? To yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, come with me.
What's your name again? I think I mentioned before.
Can you just pop into 9?
No, you could use the phone.
Okay.
I would have E9.
Yeah, gotcha. Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah, no problem. Something that occurred to me that might be relevant or helpful. With respect to sending things down to Los Angeles in preparation of the move,
Yeah.
not specifically anything to do with firearms or anything like that, and easily verifiable, the company that I was using over the past couple of months, I've been shipping lots of stuff down there in preparation of the move, which I guess would go to show that if, hypothetically speaking, I had sent the firearms down there, it was just part of...
I think I should I'll just stop you. Based on what you told me, I said I wanted to stop you.
Yeah.
I'm going to read you something. I'm arresting you for unauthorized shipment of a firearm. So that, and I'm basing that on your, and you don't obviously have to say anything. I'm going to continue. Let me explain all this to you. Basing that on your statement of having the firearm inside a computer. Do you understand that charge? What I'm alleging?
Yes.
And it's unauthorized exportation.
It was my understanding. Wait, how is that unauthorized exportation to the U.S.? Approval or authorization is not required.
Just 1 second.
Sure, yeah.
Let me just get through this and then
No problem.
It is my duty to inform you that you have the right to retain and instruct counsel in private without delay. You may call any lawyer you want. There's a 24-hour telephone service available which provides a legal aid duty lawyer who can give you legal advice in private. This advice is given without charge and the lawyer can explain the legal aid plan to you. If you wish to contact a legal aid duty lawyer, I can provide you with a telephone number. Do you understand?
I do.
Do you want to call a lawyer?
Not at this point.
You're not obliged to say anything, but anything you do say may be given in evidence. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, so I don't know the exact charge. However, we are looking at the criminal code, and from what we can see, exporting a firearm in the means that you did it appears to be, I'm trying to put the layman terms, break that law that I mentioned, unauthorized exporting of a firearm.
Yes, I agree in the case of all countries other than the U.S. However, what I read on the RCMP's website was there is no restriction on exporting a firearm to the U.S. to the U.S. temporarily. If exporting it permanently, I'm required to notify the RCMP, but it doesn't specify how soon, and it doesn't specify, like, there's no clarification of what's meant by permanently.
Yeah. I'm talking about, though, you told me that your friend won't know about it because it was put inside a computer.
Right, but I'm not going to comment on that now because of this additional charge.
No, that's fair enough. So that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So, same thing. Do you want to tell me about, more about because it's strange to me that shipping to the States to get it to Ontario, why you would go to that much effort to bring a firearm across the border?
Well, not just a firearm, my printer, my computers, my clothes. The reason is, well, first, I don't know anybody in Toronto, as I said, so I have nobody there I can ship it to. Now, I could have shipped it there and had it put into storage, maybe. That might be a possibility, I'm not sure. The reason I didn't opt to do that is one thing I've learned in my life, particularly with the experiences I've had with the U.S. authorities, is you never know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if I ended up getting arrested, because I knew I was going down to LA for a visit, so I knew there was a possibility I could get detained. They might charge me with something, who knows, I might go to prison for 5 years. And then that would mean I would lose all the stuff again, because eventually I wouldn't be able to pay for the storage. So the reason I was shipping things, or rather than using the word shipping, because that implies using the postal service or something, which introduces certain legalities. The reason I was transporting, let's say, things to my friend in Los Angeles is because I knew that she would hold them for me until, if something were to happen, then.
Okay.
Now, I know it's not very cost effective because I was spending a lot more money having it brought there and then brought back, except I saw it as kind of insurance. It's better to spend the extra money, but at least know that in the end, I'll still have the stuff.
What's your plans for, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but obviously you'll go before a judge. What are your plans after that if you were to be released?
Well, in light of these new charges, I think going to Toronto is probably going to be put on hold, because even if I wasn't required to stay in British Columbia as a condition of release, I think it would be kind of impractical to go all the way to Ontario and then have to come back here all the time for court. So I would presume that I would stay here in BC until this matter is resolved. I think, though, given the way all of this looks on paper when it's presented to the judge, I don't think, honestly, that there's much chance that I'm going to be released tomorrow.
Okay. And was it in your intention to go back to your place on Sunset?
I would say no.
Do you not have that anymore? I don't think you have that anymore.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I figured you. Did your rent end at the end of May?
Yes.
Yeah. I figured.
My intention before coming here to the RCMP, when I was expecting that I was coming back to Vancouver, was that I was going to come here, probably be here for a few days, see where everything stood, and then head off to Toronto. But in light of all these new developments now, most likely, if I was released, well, I shouldn't say most likely. If I was released, absolutely I would be staying in Vancouver. I mean,
yeah, but you weren't. I can see, and I mean, clearly you weren't. Your intent was you weren't coming back to. You go across that border. You're not coming back here. That's obvious to me. You've given up your place. All your stuff has been shipped.
Yes.
So that's pretty evident to me that you were either going to stay in California, stay in the States, or go back to Ontario, which I don't get.
Yes. Well, the Ontario thing, you understand, is purely because of the situation with my son. Mm-hmm. So that he has the option, if he chooses, to leave there and come back with me.
But that wouldn't be until October that you necessarily need that, because that's when he turns 16.
Well, in September he turns 16. The thing is, we're so close to his 16th birthday. If he were to run away next month or something, honestly, I don't think that many people are really going to would make a big deal about it.
Okay.
It would never be my intention, though, to take him by force, because there's a custody order there, and because I don't believe in forcing a child to live with a parent they don't want to live with anyway.
Okay.
Me going to Ontario is purely so that he has the option if that's what he wants to do.
Okay.
And as for the possibility that I may have decided to go to Los Angeles and stay there, that may have been something I had considered, but I look at all of the risks and the downsides of it, and it's just not like there's just not really an incentive for me to stay in Los Angeles. At any moment, ICE could show up at my door and I could spend 6 weeks in custody. If I'm working on a project at the time, obviously I'm going to lose the project. I wouldn't be able to get an employment reference from them. It's just such an incredibly precarious situation that would put my life in.
Okay. Obviously, the investigator thinks that you shipped those firearms and is going to fear, anyway, that you shipped them there to go and get them, and then who knows what you were going to do with them afterwards.
Sure, and that's fine. That's purely speculation, though. That's anticipation or speculation of a crime that may possibly occur at some point in the future. Not something that has actually occurred.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. That's what I said. Think, right? He's going to think that was your intention, right? So, were you going to go to Arizona?
No.
No.
I've had very bad experiences with Arizona.
Yeah. Okay.
They're very, very anti-immigrant there, and they're very strict. Like, if I was to go to Arizona and even just get pulled over for not signaling, I'd end up back in custody again, and just that absolutely wouldn't be worth it.
Where's your stuff right now? Because that's obviously that's something we need to know. We need to find out where is your stuff right now.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can handle this that won't adversely affect my friend?
I can't answer that because I don't know the U.S. laws, and I obviously I don't I'm not familiar. I deal with more I don't want to say my bread and butter, but the main thing I deal with is sex assaults. So I don't deal with shipment of firearms, stuff like that.
Right.
So it would not. It'd be wrong of me to comment and tell you, and I would be misinforming you if I told you that it wouldn't, because I don't know. I had to look up this crime. I'm being very forthcoming with you. I'm telling you, I didn't know. I just knew that when you made that statement, that I felt that But anyways, so where is your stuff right now?
Okay, first let me say my main concern in this matter is not so much incriminating myself, but trying to protect my friend who has no knowledge that any of this has even occurred from getting in any kind of trouble. Because since she has no knowledge of it, she obviously hasn't done anything wrong, but sometimes the law enforcement in the US doesn't care about those kinds of things. So I don't want to put her in bad.
How do you know she doesn't know?
Because anything that I've shipped down there, she hasn't taken them out of the boxes. They're all just like off in the corner in the boxes.
Okay.
And in fact, she would even be able to ship the entire, like the same box, hypothetically, if I had shipped it. She would be able to ship that same box right back without having opened it or anything.
Okay. But she wouldn't be able to ship to Canada because if that would put her. I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't ask her to do that because that could put her in a precarious position, knowing that that there's a firearm inside one of those boxes.
Well, she would have liability if she knew what was in it.
Well,
but if she shipped something back to me without having any knowledge of what was actually in it, then
it would just it'd be an investigation, right? She'd have to, prove that she didn't have any knowledge and maybe didn't open the box or whatever.
Right. See, I'm a little concerned though that if I tell you specifically where it is, that all of a sudden stormtroopers are going to go racing into her place, and that's
my concern is right now is in this alarm is that, and I'm sure you can understand this, and it'll be our fear and something that the investigator is that you ship that firearm to somebody and they're going to go and use that firearm.
That's an understandable fear. Absolutely not going to happen though, because the friend we're talking about is a short little Costa Rican woman in her mid-40s. So, okay, I absolutely know that won't happen. But of course, there's nothing that I can say that could assure you of that.
Yeah.
Of course, if something did happen to Desiree, and if what happened to her was related to a gunshot wound, and let's see, from the ballistics, they would need the gun to determine if the bullet was shot from there, but from the caliber, that would narrow it down, but the 9mm is an incredibly common caliber, so that wouldn't mean much.
You shipped your 9mm too? Your handgun?
Well, all of them.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the cost. Like, I had considered selling them, but then I was thinking, if I sell them, I'm going to take quite a hit on them, I'm going to lose quite a bit of money on them.
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, it's just temporary, so it's not likely it's going to be an issue. I think the probability of something happening to Desiree related to firearms transpiring within the near future, like the next couple of days or so, would be so minor. Ideally what I would love to propose is either for my friend to bring the package completely unopened to the local law enforcement there, and then they can get it and they can verify with you, or for her to ship it back by FedEx, and I would cover the cost, even though that would be huge because it was a 60-pound computer. But,
yeah.
But I think from the officers, or you call them constables up here, right? Not officers, but
officers is fine too.
Having spoken with me, and from the content you've seen on the website, I think everybody knows by this point I'm not a violent person and I'm not a irrational person.
Yeah.
And I don't think that anybody really believes that I would have any kind of involvement in causing Desiree some kind of physical harm that could possibly result in me being...
At this point, I think I'll introduce you to police investigations, how they work and how they're in here. Stuff that's going to happen, and that's going to happen now is, and that I'll recommend, is that they're going to look at everything right now with your credit cards, any cards you have, your cell phones, writing search warrants, production orders for your credit cards, finding out where you ship this stuff from would be what they'll do.
Yeah, I can even tell you that.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, that, if you want to tell me, that's fine. Where do you ship them from?
The packaging depot on Kingsway at Gilly. 6360, I think it was.
Okay. Is that like a FedEx kind of thing, or Canada Post?
Well, it's a private business. They handle the shipping, but also like packaging, like if you needed boxed up and all that, because some of the stuff I didn't want to bother with boxing it and...
Okay. How come you chose them? Do you often ship with them, or...?
Nope, I just was Googling like shipping and packaging places close by, and found them, and so I started going to them and went to them again, and they had some computer needs, so they asked me if I would help them out with some of that.
Okay.
But they would be able to verify that there's been X number of shipments, like my home theater system, my printer, my computers, and...
Okay. When you ship them, did you just ship it like right inside the computer, or did you take these guns apart?
I think we're getting into some potentially incriminating territory there under U.S. laws, not under Canadian. Under Canadian law, there's no requirement when shipping. It doesn't need to have a trigger lock on it or anything, and it doesn't need to be disassembled. I believe the only requirement is that the package cannot contain any indication that it contains a firearm. So it complied with all the, Canadian laws.
Okay. You can conceal a firearm, and you've looked into that? Because I haven't. Inside the computer?
I always look into what the laws are before I do something that's questionable. Like I said before, it's very rare that I violate a law. I come very close sometimes, but I always try to stay on this one side. Now, if, hypothetically, I have violated any U.S. laws by, hypothetically, shipping any firearms to the U.S., that was, again, purely hypothetically, I'm not admitting anything here, but that would have been, A, because it's a different jurisdiction, and B, weighing the probability of it being an issue.
Okay. When did you ship them?
Specifically the firearms?
Yeah.
Again,
when did you start shipping stuff? I
started shipping stuff, let's see, I finished there in February. I think middle of March.
Okay.
And, I would gradually ship something here, a little bit there. Some of the things, it just wasn't cost effective to bother moving, so like my beds and stuff. And
yeah, because, there's a charge in the criminal code, shipping restricted firearms, prohibited firearms, it kind of covers off that. Mm-hmm. So we're not experts on this, never charged anybody with this. I'm just totally honest with you.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. But to me, it looks like you've broken that law. So that's why I've charged and warned you for that.
Sure.
So that's kind of where we're at. I asked you kind of where they were because I'm trying to figure out, right now, you're saying your friend doesn't know that they're there, the firearms are in this computer. Right now, it's fearful for us that the location of these firearms have gone from here, and now we're sitting somewhere in the States, and we don't know where they are.
Right.
And that's why I was asking you where they are located right now. So we're going to write production orders, and it'll tell us where the firearms went. Mm-hmm. That'll take time, but that's what what we'll be doing. What I'll be recommending to the officer anyway.
Mm-hmm. What are production orders?
It's basically, do you know what a search warrant is?
Yeah.
Kind of similar to a search warrant. A production order is served to a company, authorized by Justice of the Peace. Mm-hmm. In that we ask for certain records and we explain why. Obviously, we're investigating a criminal offense, and we believe that we will find this evidence. Judge or Justice authorized it, and then it basically puts the company at work, and they have to comply with that order to give us those documents.
Sure.
So that's what I will recommend. So, and if obviously I'm doing so, should be able to get the address of where those went. So that's why
Sure.
I was asking you if you
Okay.
wanted to tell me now. I'm not saying we will get that. I'm saying that's what I'm
Right.
going to recommend that we do.
If you were to pursue that course, how long would you anticipate it would take?
I couldn't answer that, a
Mhm.
production order, but it usually, I mean, I've written a production order and had it done all in one day.
Yeah.
But I mean, usually, I mean, it could take a couple days, it could take weeks. I mean, it's hard to say.
Right. And then, of
So-
course, coordinating with the U.S. authorities.
Yeah. And
Um,
if I am correct, that this is a law, there will be fear that we would like to get that. If this is a law, we would always like to secure evidence.
Mhm.
There would be fear that should you be released, you could just get rid of that evidence.
Sure.
And by many means. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just kind of explaining how my thought, what's going on in my head right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to comment further, if you want to sit on that.
I will contemplate that for some time. My first preference would still be to have my friend ship them back to the RCMP, so that I can keep her out of it as much as possible.
Okay.
Because if we go that route, then they could be here like within a business day or two.
Okay.
That of course would save all of you the effort of having to get the warrants and stuff, or subpoenas, or what did you call it?
Production orders.
Production orders.
Yeah. They may be called a subpoena in the States.
In the US, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you want to sit on it for a second? I'm going to run out and go to the washroom.
yeah, sure.
Do you need water or anything? Or are you good? Want some water?
Yeah, sure, some water.
Okay. Hey. Okay, I've got to go watching. Yeah.
The file seems to be getting bigger.
No, it hasn't at all.
So I was rolling this over in my head and I'm thinking to myself, it seems to me, based on what I know and my understanding of the Canadian laws, I haven't actually violated any Canadian laws, even with the issue of if I had shipped.
But don't go off of
firearms.
that. Go off of what because I don't want you. I've arrested you for that.
Right.
So right now you are under arrest for.
No, I
so
understand that.
Don't all your thoughts in your head. You need to think about that. I've arrested you for that. So.
Oh yes.
And read your rights for that. So.
Right. But well, see, I'm thinking, like, everything that I've been charged with so far, if it were to go to trial, which on my end it definitely would, if you look at my history legally, like in the U.S., I've never signed a plea for anything except for a DUI one time, because if I know I haven't committed the crime, I'm not going to sign a plea for it. So from my perspective, it would definitely go to trial, and if it went to trial, I'm pretty confident it wouldn't get a conviction because, first of all, Desiree, as a witness, as a victim, she probably wouldn't show up because she's a drug addict, and while she's here, she wouldn't be able to get any drugs. She's incredibly unincredible. My attorney would, show all this proof that she lied so much. So that wouldn't go anywhere. The shipping of the firearm, and I'm not saying this to be like
yeah, you don't have to say
arrogant or
that.
anything.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just explaining that I was rolling this around in my head because I was trying to think how can I best handle the issue with the firearms, because I want to cooperate with you on that, except I really want to keep my friend out of it as well. So the thing about the firearms, that I know I haven't violated any Canadian laws on. I've met all of the shipping restrictions. Now you guys could extradite me to the US to be prosecuted for whatever potentially might have been violated there. And then there's the question, would the US authorities bother with it? And I'm guessing probably not, but they might, who knows. But that's a whole other issue. Now, knowing all of that, I still want to cooperate with you guys, even though I'm quite confident in my mind there wouldn't be a conviction that would be able to come from this. Also, one more thing about the uttering threats and the harassment thing. Even if she were to appear and testify and she was credible, given the wording of the statute, there hasn't actually been any criminal harassment or uttering of threats. There's not a single record of a threat anywhere. But I still, like I said, want to cooperate with you guys on the firearms issue. So what I would propose, and I realize I'm not in a position to be negotiating here, but what I would propose is that I contact my friend, have her UPS that package back here to this station or to the investigator or whoever's in charge of it. You guys can hold me in detention until that time, and you can confirm that everything is there and everything is in order. That way, you've gotten them all back, you know where they are. If you're going to revoke my PAL at that point and seize them, well, fine. And everybody's happy.
Okay. Yeah, I can't answer that question, so...
Right.
Yeah. So... Is there anything in your computers or anywhere that you're within, or your phone, where you make comment and talk, and even if you deleted it, because we have techie guys too, we call them tech crimes, where you talk about going to Arizona?
To Arizona? No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Okay. Or talk about sending someone to Arizona, or talk anything with your child? No. Okay.
No.
Okay. Because obviously if we see something, it would look pretty damning, especially now that you're telling me you haven't, right? So.
Right. I'm trying to think how I can best articulate this in a way that it would be believable or credible. Let me ask you, would you say that I seem to be a reasonably rational and sane person?
From what I've seen here today,
For the most part, anyway.
yeah,
Okay.
rational, yes, definitely, and you're not insane. I would say yes.
Okay. And clearly, I have a reasonable understanding of the law, and from that post that I made about the logistics.
I haven't seen that, but
Oh, well, just from my grasp of like the laws here, and being careful not to break the laws and such. But from that post, the logistics there, I've clearly put some thought into what would actually be required. So I know how difficult, if not impossible, it would be to actually harm Desiree. Particularly, even with all of that aside, I would be the prime suspect if anything happened to Desiree. Which is part of the reason while I was in ICE custody, I was really hoping something did happen to Desiree, because that gives me, an alibi. But apparently nothing did. So, given that I'm probably a pretty rational, sane person, and I have a very strong sense of moral obligation as a parent to my child to fulfill certain obligations to him, doing anything to her or being related in any way to any harm coming to her would result in me unquestionably being detained, probably going to trial, and probably going to prison. That would be... There's absolutely no way that I would be able to commit any offense like that and even think of getting away with it.
How would you travel to How are you going to travel to California?
On this trip,
Yes.
Amtrak.
Okay.
I was going to walk to Linden,
Yeah.
take the public transit bus, the Whatcom transit bus, the 25, I think it was, over to Core Data Station in Bellingham, catch another one from there. I had all the information in my tablet. Another one from there to Bellingham main station or something, and then I catch the Greyhound to Seattle. Then I would take a cab over to the Amtrak station, take the Amtrak down to California, and I was going to pay for it all with my credit cards. The use of the credit cards clearly shows I wasn't trying to hide anything. But you might be thinking, but I hadn't actually used the credit cards yet, except that there's records that show I only had $340 US on me, and that wouldn't have covered all of the costs. So I would have had to use the credit cards.
Okay.
Plus I had my mobile phone with me. If I was going down there to do something wrong, just like I said about the logistics in there, the GPS information from the phone would be able to be used to prove that I was present in the US. If I was going to do something like that, I would have been better to leave my phone in Vancouver, because if I even turned the phone on for a moment, then it would connect to the cell towers and there would be a record there showing. So, yes, I crossed the border, like I didn't go through customs there. The reason for that was, one, the level of risk. I thought if I went through the checkpoint, most of the time when I would go through the checkpoint, like they would just look at the ID and go, yeah, okay, go ahead. But if they did actually run the name or something or check my fingerprints, then I would have been detained and possibly had legal issues arise from that. So the reason I didn't go through the checkpoint was simply because I thought it would just be more streamlined and lower risk if I didn't.
Okay. And you're saying you had your cell phone on you?
Yes.
At the time?
Yep, you guys now have it in property.
Okay. When was the last time you went through the checkpoint?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
I couldn't say an exact date, but what are we in 2016? Maybe sometime in 2014, summer. Wait, Garo was here in 2015, and then I started at Vtech, and I haven't been down there since then because of the commute to Richmond.
Okay.
My hours were so long because I was spending like an hour and a half getting to and from.
Okay. And did you have something arranged in Toronto already where you were going to go?
No.
No. Have you made inquiries about Toronto, or?
I've looked into the job market, and it seems comparable to Vancouver, except for the specific type of development that I do. Vancouver is mostly like game development and embedded development, but my background is mostly in business systems, like financial systems and all. And there's a lot more of that type of development in Toronto.
Okay.
I researched the rental rates, the cost of the hotels and the rental cars, and the costs also of the flights from Vancouver to Toronto.
And why would you look at that, flights from Vancouver to Toronto, if you're going
Because-
to California?
Well, because if I had decided to just not go to LA and just go directly from Vancouver to Toronto.
Okay. But that wasn't your intent, though. You were going to California.
I was kind of straddling the fence on it. A lot of things were kind of up in the air. I mean,
Okay.
like there were a lot of variables that could have pushed me one way or the other. And
Okay. I gotcha.
Ow.
How are you feeling?
Fine, I guess. I mean, I'm not really stressed or anything. I accept that I'm probably going to be in custody for some time. Not happy about it, but I mean, it's my own fault, I guess. Well, it's partially my own fault. I blame it mostly on Desiree because she's deliberately trying to manipulate people into thinking that she's scared and I'm a big threat and all this stuff. The going down to the US part, that was entirely my choice, so I put myself into that situation. The thing about the firearms, again, that I accept full responsibility for.
Why would you ship, like, that's what I don't get, why would you even bother shipping those? Why wouldn't you just leave them here somewhere in storage or...
Well, because if I had decided to go directly from LA to Toronto and not come back here first, then how would I get them from here to Toronto? And then the other concern I had was if I went down to the US and did run into legal complications, and if I did end up being detained for some indefinite period of time, then I may have lost them if I left them here.
Okay. I'm being told apparently we already know believe we know who the friend is in California, so...
Okay.
But again, remember I came in late, so I don't have the information, so... do you know a lot of people in California?
A lot. That's subjective.
How many people do you know in California, approximately?
15 to 20.
Okay.
And I should mention that so far I've been speaking of the one singular friend, but that's a deliberate, even though I may be referring to multiple friends, in order to conceal that. I just refer to it singularly as one female friend.
Okay.
So I don't accidentally slip up and say somebody's name.
Yeah. I don't know if I believe you on that,
That's
but
fine.
that's, so... Is there anything else you want to talk about that we can think that we haven't discussed?
Not really, because certain things might incriminate me. Certain things might mitigate the issue, but I mean, generally as a rule, it's not good to bring up stuff when you're being interrogated. It's better to just respond to...
This isn't really an interrogation, though. I mean, we don't... Interrogation, I mean, I haven't been accusatory, really. It's been non-accusatory.
Okay. Interview, then.
Yeah.
Interview, however, an interview where information that I have brought up has been then used against me to bring additional charges.
Fair enough.
Right.
Okay. Okay, I think we will, given that it's midnight now, I think we'll end it.
Okay.
It's 12:13, so yeah, we'll head back.
Okay.
You want to bring your cup? You're welcome to do so. I can take your cup. That's right here. And straight down. Straight through. And left. Hopefully he's here. Yuri? Yuri?
Yeah.
Alright. We're back.
Right? Okay.
Mr. Fox has been put back in his cell. What I showed him during the interview, the first thing I showed him was this email. It was dated More Plans on January 28th. It was sent on January 28th. It says from Patrick Fox, and it's got his email. Let me mention, he pointed out that email that he uses was Solar Onyx, and that was a email connected to his work. So great. Right there. That's the email, and then it's got the second page, this is Patrick, so from Patrick. Then there was this screenshot from his website, and it's got a picture of James Pendleton. Mr. Fox said that he put that photo on there and altered it. And then we have a picture, a screenshot of his website, the front page. And I'll be ending the interview at 0016 hours on June 17, 2016.